Welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. First up, you're not allowed to judge me, okay? Like, my monitor's dead, so I'm going to be looking over here the entire time so I can see what's going on. I'm out of touch. I have no idea what's going on in the NFL because my schedule's got all mixed up. And, yeah, I look like I'm a mess. I get it, but you're not allowed to judge me because I would like it if you did not. I'd appreciate that. We get together every 9:30 Wednesday to talk about fantasy football, mostly, specifically from a dynasty perspective, but we do it from other angles as well. For about 3 hours at a time, or at least until we get tired or run out of questions, really. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments that you want to throw our way, drop them in whatever comment box, whatever streaming platform you're listening to us on, wherever it happens to be. I think we're going live to YouTube and Twitch. Yeah, my Twitch channel, and also Facebook. So whichever one of those has an interactive feature, feel free to use it so that we have something to talk about. The season is very much coming to a close. I still have a few finals going because 17 weeks now is fairly popular end deadline, but most of them are finished, and I'm excited to find out how you did or thoughts on the off-season. We have both Zach and Russ in the house today, so full house. Let's get to it. In a minute. I pushed the button. It's going to bring us back to Russ. Apparently that doesn't work.
You good?
Hey guys, sorry about that. My internet dying again, apparently. I'm going to go feed the hamster, and maybe that'll improve things.
You can't let him
how you guys do? Are you good at fantasy football? Did you make any playoffs?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not the first one, but definitely made playoffs.
Made playoffs. Oh, my God. So I want to outlaw Saturday football because I had two teams that had a bye week the previous week. And so my lineups were set from the week before. And I did not realize there was Saturday football. Keenan Allen, the Chargers played on Saturday, but Keenan Allen did not play. So I had two teams in the semifinals who were top two seeds have Keenan Allen in the lineup, both of which I would have won had I put almost any other player in. So, like, part of me is like, just let me get destroyed. Just let me get destroyed. Just let me get destroyed. Nope. Nope.
That's worse. Just rub your nose in it.
Yep. So that sucked. And then one other team, I got a wonderful combination of a total of 2 points out of Sam Howell and Jordan Addison. I mean, that team was falling apart on its own, but that's not really expected how I go down. I expect it to go down. But I think I'm in 4 or 5 championships, so I'm still not bad, but I could have been. And of course, every one I lost was a Trade Addicts league. I'm in one Trade Addicts.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm intentionally bottom of the loon Trade Addicts league I'm in, so, I can't comment. I would say I made one final. I hate the number of different platforms we've got. I forgot I was playing in a certain leagues, and I made the final as a wild card spot. I haven't set my lineup for the entire playoffs, and I've outscored every other team in the last 3 weeks. So I'm going into the final this week, and I remember I was like, I haven't checked those leagues in forever, and there's just admonishment after admonishment from the commissioner. I was like, sorry, but apparently that's what works for me. I don't tell you, I was must have been setting my best lineup because I just was auto. It had Justin Herbert and Pat Freiermuth, but I also had like T. Higgins and Mike Evans and those that have gone off over the last few weeks, and they've just been carrying me through the last. So I'll take it, but it felt bad. So that happened. I can get to a final without even setting my lineup, or maybe the team's better off without me setting a lineup. I hadn't thought about it that way. Maybe I'm the problem.
I feel that.
We call that Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
This time of year, I'm just tempted to only do best ball leagues, only best ball dynasty from now on, because I can never accidentally forget I am in a league. I think that might be the ticket.
Yeah,
I get fatigue awful quick into the season.
Yeah, I've been solo MFL for years now. I had like 2 years ago, I had a work league that was on Sleeper, and I forgot about it most of the time. But it was just a work redraft. But like, yeah, no, 100% MFL. It's beautiful. I have my favorites bar up top. I have a folder for fantasy football. I just go down one by one, set my lineups. Don't have to worry about anything else. Ugh.
I've said this for years. I think my favorite platform is Flea Flicker, but no one plays on it. No one I know plays on it. I was exclusive to MFL for years because that's where everyone I know plays. But my patrons talked me into a sleeper league because that's where they all play. And so I joined a few others because once I signed up on there, some other people asked. And I hate it. I've been forgetting sleeper all season. And MFL's good, but it's an inferior platform. It's a difficult. But yeah. Just another advertisement for Flea Flicker, who won't respond to me when I ask him to come advertise on my podcast or whatever, or even get involved on Twitter, maybe. But yeah, Zach, go okay for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only in 5 leagues. I made the playoffs in 3, and I'm in a final, so 20% finals.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I
wasn't actually
by accident
testing you all, by the way. But my
no.
Sorry.
By accident, I got in, and actually 2 of the leagues I'm actively tanking. Although one of the ones that I'm actively tanking, I made the playoffs because I don't know. So I don't know. So it was fine. I am in a championship in TA 11 against Rocky. Should be a tough one. I should have traded Ayuk to his competitor because I think I would just roll his competitor. But
can I ask you, is it true in your leagues? Like most of my leagues, a lot of the best teams are built around the 23 class, whether it is trades around that class or because players are emerging from this class. Like it seems to be pretty important to the teams at the top of most of my leagues.
I have Addison. I don't have very much. I traded away my 24 pick to Russ, and then I think I had like the 105 or 104, 105, and I took Addison, and that's. I mean, he's been good, but my team's built around the fact that Tyreek Hill is very fast.
That's a solid, universal truth. Bo Pond said, and he was in here at 1 p.m., by the way, and my best week of the season, Puka, Breece Hall, and Amon-Ra St. Brown did their thing. Amon-Ra's been carrying me in so many
all for
places.
Nothing.
Nothing. I lost because of Mari Cooper. Oh, no. Ironically, would have won if I started Flacco over Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, that.
Oh, see, I wish
I
I'd been on the show last week
because
if you had asked that, I definitely would have told you to start Flacco over Lawrence.
Man, you start Flacco over almost anyone right now. This
week is going to be tough, though. The Jets pass defense is tough, but revenge game narrative versus good pass defense. What do we think? I don't know.
I think you need to be on a team for more than 30 seconds for a revenge narrative.
I
mean, he led them in passing last year, even though he only played 5 games.
Yeah, I was about to say that doesn't. That's a low bar.
You and Addison on the Trade Addict show are going to be or were today, depending on when your schedule is, talking about buys this offseason. And I don't know. I'm not there yet. But I keep thinking wide receiver is going to feel so deep to people that I want to pummel that tier that we've actually been highlighting this offseason as well. The CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, and that second tier of wide receivers. Like it's no deeper than it's ever been. And I think that tier of wide receivers might be where I try to push a lot of value. Outside of that, trying to fish running backs, I guess. But sorry, Bob Pons. There's just no accounting for Mari Cooper.
There's
first
no
in Dynasty
for Mari.
I mean,
Sorry, that was a great line.
It's true. What do you want? 12 team Superflex PPR half point tight end premium, start 10, 26-man roster, and 4-man taxi. I think I have to hold onto startable depth like McLaurin and Deontay. I have 4 fifths and 3 fifths. Those don't matter apart from pieces and, random shots. The question is, any minute now, what should I do with those late flyers? If I stick and pick, how do you generally decide who to cut for room come draft time? Me, Minshew, Browning, Huntley, Jalen Hall, Chase Brown, right? Schoonmaker, Heiner, AT, Rucker, and Pop. I actually have something of a formulaic answer to this. So does anyone have any other thoughts before I get into
I will say first, you get your commissioner to change the rule that you expand rosters once the season ends to make room for draft picks, as opposed to making you drop players before the draft. I mean, you want people to make the most informed decision they can, so they load up their rosters and you cut it down in August. And since clearly that's not going to happen right now anyway, even if they agree to it, that's usually something you do in the future. You don't do it that year. Spend every second until the draft sending consolidating trade offers. 2-for-1s, 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 3-for-1s. And you don't need, especially if you're talking with guys of this level, you don't need that big of an upgrade to send Jaren Hall and Schoonmaker. You can send them for one person of the same level, just that you believe in. That's the real way to do it, is because you might as well get something out of it as opposed to just dropping. See if you can get 25 thirds or fourths or fifths, push it down the line so you could figure out what to do with it later. I'm all for not having to drop, but also who the hell's Hainer?
Jake.
Oh, is that the
quarterback for the Saints that got suspended?
Yeah, man. You don't have
to did the photo
or Jaren Hall or you don't have to even hold on to some of these guys, especially in a 26-man roster, I think is what you said it was. But even still, if you don't have to just drop for nothing, don't drop for nothing. Try and consolidate them into something better.
And when you're starting to cut people, the 2 tight ends aren't ever going to be anything.
Yeah.
Like Schoonmaker and Ruckert. I'm sorry, Sal, but
Ruckert.
My guess is that A.T. Perry's not a thing.
I love that he just randomly comes up with 10 fantasy points and it's one catch for 30.
He had a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's happened multiple weeks.
Demario Douglas, I'm at a point now, and I know this was Genji continuing to ask about Demario Douglas pop. He set the record for rookie receptions with the Patriots. That's not nothing, but it's also not he's like a 5th flex or so, a 4th flex. He's rosterable, but not somebody you're
Yeah, you have to hope that they stop being stupid and keep themselves in the Drake May running, and then Drake May just builds a rapport with Douglas, and he was without a doubt the best wide receiver on the field.
Yeah,
it unfortunately wasn't saying much, which kills me because Juju was on the field with him sometimes.
Stop,
but
painful.
I know, I hate it. It makes me so sad. Yeah,
but
you don't have to overthink it. Most of these guys are roster cloggers. It's a weird year that this many. It's okay. So we usually have a lot of quarterbacks that start, but Browning and Huntley and Hall, they're meant to be picked up on the waiver wire when the quarterbacks get hurt.
Did you see the tweet from Sal Stefanelli? That was every single quarterback who started a game this year in alphabetical order. And it was my entire phone, 3 scrolls. And at the very end, he's like, I'm really glad I pay for Twitter. So I could do this entire tweet complete.
Love it.
But it's been 52 quarterbacks.
And It's been crazy, especially at the quarterback position, which probably means we shouldn't expect less of that the following year. But like Russ said, I think the essential thing to take away here, Bo, especially for your first off season, is Russ is right. Don't sweat it for the most part. You're not, if you drop something that turns out to be a gold nugget, most people probably would have dropped it when you're talking about the bottom of your roster. So it's not like we get this a lot, right? When there are those gold nuggets, they're hard to find. But there are things I found to be consistently true that I try to keep in mind when making these decisions quickly and with no sweat at all. You're not making a bad move if it turns out to be wrong, because there's really nothing that works out consistently here. As far as 4th and 5th round picks go, you're leaning running back, and occasionally if you see a tight end with a profile that you like. Now, there are exceptions, especially if someone falls with draft capital. You snag those in the 4th and 5th round, even at the wide receiver or the quarterback position. And it's a mistake I made several times this offseason when Puka was in the 4th round, but I wasn't a Puka guy, and so I avoided him. But that's a type of exception you can make. He had decent draft capital and enough touts that have enough talent, even if I was on the opposite side of it, that I probably should have taken that shot. So it's not like you don't make exceptions for particular draft fallers, draft capital fallers, or just profiles that you particularly like at the wide receiver position. But most of the time, if you're going to find value outside of the top 12 picks or top 8 picks, it's going to come at running back and it's going to come at tight end. And sometimes the tight end is delayed, which actually rolls me into this second part. When I'm making cut decisions, I should write a whole article at this point. Tight end is actually much higher on the list of keeps than wide receiver. Running backs, you pretty much can keep holding running backs unless there's a really good reason not to, because running backs are the ones we know in season that more often come into some level of value or startability more often just as a position. And in a super flex, I would actually hold Minshew. It'd be Minshew and then Pop would be the top of my list, the two I would be least likely to drop. Not that you can't drop them, but if you're making decisions and you're going to keep 3, those 2 will probably be on the top. Because the next thing that you can learn that does have some level of consistency is what have they done in the NFL? Someone like A.T. Perry, I'm interested in. I liked his profile. He caught a touchdown. It's nothing. He's cuttable, but he's higher up on the list than someone like Jalen Hall, who had more hype coming into the draft and didn't get drafted very well and then did nothing. And that's the criteria. What did they do in the NFL? Who did a little bit more? I'm more interested in them. The reason I keep Minshew is just because quarterbacks are, and certain quarterbacks do repeatedly just end up being those replacement level starters. And Minshew, ever since he took over from the Colts, was actually remarkably startable during that period. This is like his 3rd year in a row doing that. So I hold on to the Minshew, especially in a super flex. Who's another good example from this year? Is Minshew, for a while there, it was Tyrod Taylor, and he's going to start again this week. Like in a super flex, if I can, I keep those repeatable backup with some upside quarterbacks on my roster as much as I can, just because of the format. Wide receivers are the bottom of the list. I will cut wide receivers with reckless abandon when possible. I want my bench to be mostly running backs, followed by some tight end sleepers because they have a later development mark. Even doesn't matter as much how much they did in the NFL, especially earlier on. I think Trey McBride this year, that happens more regularly than a wide receiver does absolutely nothing 3 years and then does something like Trey McBride did. That happens at tight end a lot more often than it does a wide receiver. So the position itself just gets a bump. But again, don't forget that comes after the positional cutting, comes after what have they done in the NFL. So that's just your reasonable personal feelings on if they have done, like Zach was saying, Pop, it's probably nothing. But it made an impression that it was relatively more positive this season. Russ said when he was watching, he was the best wide receiver on the team or whatever. Juju's good. But that makes an impression. It's okay just to insert those feelings of how well they performed in the NFL, regardless of box score, slightly above a positional cut line. And those 3 steps usually cut my roster down more than I need, if nothing else. And that's the thought process I run through. And like Zach and Russ both said, Minshew and Pop, probably the 2 that are vaguely interesting keepers, and that gives you more than enough space to draft 4 rookies. After that, I would go positionally, but quarterback, tight end here. I'm not particularly interested in any of these. Actually, the Brown, and I think that's a running back. I would be more interested in keeping him over Shoemaker or Hayner or even maybe A.T. Perry, just because there's a better chance that he's startable for at least a game, or people think he's startable for a game because of injuries or something of the like in 2024. And so running backs kind of lead the priority list after you get past those kind of criteria. So that's how I'd go about it. And you can feel free to dismiss all of it. It's like Russ and Zach said, mostly you probably could have cut all these guys and not done yourself any favors. And before you try any of it, I think Russ's idea of try and consolidate, add some of those fourths and fifths to try and get a third. It's better than a fourth. Why not? Or even a third a year out, just so you're adding future value, and you're not just cutting for nothing. But most Dynasty players not going to find a lot of those trades, but it's worth trying as many as you can before you start making cut decisions. All right, that's it. Chris Featherstone was in the semifinals and down 12. He had Saquon to play, and I had Gus a bus. I decided to trade Burrow and Addison for Kyler and CMC to win and go to the championship. 12-team Superflex. Was it the right move? Absolutely. Trying to win is always the right move. Getting Kyler and CMC is normally the right move. I don't like losing Saquon at his value right now, but CMC's better. Always been better. Like, he's one of the few. Like, I'd be happy to consider it that. And Kyler's better, honestly, than Burrow for me, especially at value. So, yeah, I think this was an excellent move. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad trade even in a vacuum. Like, I think I would be on the Kyler CMC side, but being in the playoffs, being a trade to win your week to get you to the championship, to give you a 50-50 chance to win a championship, that is a great trade.
Yeah. Out of context, I'd give me the side that doesn't have a running back on it, even though it is Christian McCaffrey. That's just because I hate running backs. But like in point scoring season, getting Kyler and CMC is absolutely the right move. In the playoffs, it is definitely the right move. And CMC is going up against the Manders. Like, yeah, no, right move. Absolutely. Like you might be sad for a couple of seconds when you realize you don't have Burrow and Addison, but then you'll take all the dollar bills you won and just wipe the tears away.
Yeah, 50-50 shot at winning is probably the best shot you ever get to try and win. Like, the odds wise, that's awesome.
I'm in a multi-copy.
Genji, I almost called this one.
Sorry, go ahead.
I almost called this episode rookie season, but I'm not ready for rookie season yet, so it's still just not quite there yet.
We need to let Zach get into watching more players before we say that, because he's the only one that could talk about it.
I've only watched like 8 wide receivers, so it could be 8 wide receiver season right now.
8 wide receiver season. I started a Watcher League for the DLF trade show, and it's a 24-team 2 copy, and of course Addison runs the team, so we made the finals. And I messaged him. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. It took me forever to type, but I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if we just traded for all the exact same players that he had? And like, we just went into the finals with the exact same team.
It's another way of splitting the pot, right?
You know, chances are you're going to have some overlap because you both made it to the end, right? Like, we have, I think, 2 players in common, and he has a couple of people that are obtainable and wouldn't destroy our team to go do it. And I message us, I'm like, can I do it? Can I do it? And he's like,
that would be so funny.
Well, exactly. He's like, that would probably be the funniest thing I've ever seen in fantasy football. No.
Oh no! See, I would be like, yes.
Come on, Addison, for the content. I mean, again,
this guy doesn't have any players we would be sad to have on our team, you know. But it was just
that's easily a viral TikTok right there, Addison. Come on, you know you're in a good person.
It's such a good idea.
Steve Campbell is now a YouTube member. Congrats, Steve. And thanks, I guess. Sorry, my internet's really lagging. No team trades until May. I don't like leagues that just shut it down. Like, it's hard not to keep people involved.
It's got to be a typo. It's got to be team no trades until AM. So no trades until the morning.
That's smart. You gotta get nice and rested and all that. Yes,
So
who was
Greg
also
Dulcich took the year off, huh?
he was.
Yeah, I
He's
actually
one of the
traded
tight
for
ends
him
on
a
that
few
team.
spots earlier. Yeah, he's Denver, right? Right? Yeah. Love year off players. By this, it should just be injured and somewhat disappointing for inexplainable reason. Players. Mouthful of gold. Should we approach young running backs with Kyron and Rashad White exploding in year 2 after a slow rookie year? Good question. Again, it's something I've got like somewhat of a process to establish an understanding, so I get all narrative-y. I'm going to try not to, but guys, you got better thoughts. Like, you watch Kyron. Is he actually as good as his rookie profile said? Or Rashad White, who you were somewhat down on, but he did carry the volume as we expected he might eventually. Slow start, but eventually he got there.
I mean, those guys were both top 6 running backs in that class. I'd have to go back and look to see where White was. But like off my initial evaluation, I had Kyron Williams at like 2, maybe.
Yeah, we loved Kyron, and just
He
it was
really
slow
hot.
40
Yeah,
that ruined everything.
He had a bad 40 time. He had a bad 40 time, and his draft stock fell
that
a little
dropped
bit.
His draft stock, I think. Yeah.
But like to me,
which meant I scooped him up a lot.
Yeah. To me, players like
and then cut him long before this season. By the way, to be clear,
players like White and Kyron Williams, especially given the down year that should happen with the 24 rookie class and the running backs, like there may not. Let me rephrase. There probably won't be a first-round running back in 2024. There isn't anybody that some of my most trusted Devy analysts feel has a first-round grade coming out in 2024, which means that Kyron Williams, Rashad White, having their backfields and performing well this year probably maintain. And if you're talking about those two specifically, like, yes, I expect them to continue to play well, at least for the next year. Running back is pretty interchangeable. It's the next man up. It's the one position where you can kind of see the backup coming in and performing. And so with young running backs, specifically Kyron and Rashad White, you're hanging on to them. You're playing them like they're starting running backs until they're not. With these other backs, like go back and look at rookie evaluations from this past year and see who the rookies are who didn't do what we expected or what some of the draft nicks expected. So players like Roschon Johnson, who's been fine but hasn't taken over like some people felt that he could, and I think he's capable of taking over a backfield. That type of player, and go find those rookie evaluations and add those players who haven't hit yet to the back end of your roster, because that's how you should be playing anyway with running backs.
It's really funny.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a whole career.
The first thing Peter said was, I have this thing, but I don't like it because it's all narrative based. With me, that's what it is. These guys walked into the situations that made them what they were. You know, we saw Rashad White do it a little towards the end of the season when Fournette was hurt or just started to fade away. So we saw him coming in and we saw them not replace him. It was obvious that Rashad White would have the opportunity to do this. And we saw that he somewhat has the ability to do it. And, you know, there are some people that were like Travis May apparently loved Rashad White. So like, it's not that he was ever bad. Like, and again,
me
he was
and JJ Zacharias in this offseason talked about being a top 12 breakout.
Yeah. And the same thing with
not
Kyron,
just us two, but I like putting us in the same sentence.
Yeah, like I had a lot of Kyron shares because I was hoping he would just become the receiving back on the team. And then all of a sudden, there's just literally no other running backs on the team. It's like, all right, well, I guess Kyron's the guy now. And of course, I didn't see him fully being a workhorse back and doing all this with it, but I was prepared for some sort of outcome. Like, it literally is, to me, just plain old narrative on this one. Because with running back, that's all you can have. Never forget that DeAndre Swift got 1 touch week 1. And the only reason he played week 2 was because Gainwell got hurt. And look what happened. The coaches decided to give him the opportunity, and he did something with it. So that's what you chase with running backs. You chase the opportunities. And when it comes to crowded backfields, I know like JJ Zacharyson has a thing, how to find the right player in the crowded backfields. And I'm not a fan of like taking both and just, hoping you get, you're just keeping the right one, because usually there never is a right one. That's why I'm more of like a plant flagger, and I'll just pick one and hope I'm right. Well, that's a lie. Pick one and hope I get lucky. But like that's all it is to me. That's all this is with Kyron and Rachaad White and any running back in general. It just comes down to the opportunity.
Yeah, I love everything Russ just said, but to be clear, I said I didn't want to narrativize. When my internet is running a little laggy, I have to kind of do it in paragraphs instead of expecting to be able to contribute to the conversation. But this is the exact kind of thing I try and understand what happens more often because it's a fairly common situation. I'm a little more skittish on these later breakout players. I said this offseason, Rachaad White was in a top 12 breakout year. He's one of the guys I highlighted for that, and the other one did it as well. But when they happen, I'm more likely to say we should try and trade them away. Too long didn't read on the top sheet. We trade running backs when they have value. There are very few exceptions to that. Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, just to name a few that are currently active in the league. But when they're those potential elite difference makers, you maybe not as gun happy instead of gun shy to trade them away because they have value, because they're those elite few. Same as the wide receiver position. But in general, these guys have accrued value. So if I can trade for that value, I will, because they're running backs. But my experience playing Dynasty, despite the things that sound smart, because saying to trade away these later breakout running backs is going to sound great in a year, because they're more likely, like Russ said, they're opportunity based, and there's always a revolving door at running back. So you get to claim victory when that very predictable door swings once again. But actually playing in Dynasty, I found most players are aware of that. It's hard to trade Kyron Williams and Rachaad White for their value because people are going to be more skittish on them. So it's one of those things that becomes all about the trade. And I think the follow-up to that is what Zach said. Those other running backs that we liked coming in this season that were second, third round picks, that we like their profiles, are in interesting situations that some didn't quite do much this season. Roschon, Tank Bigsby, Zach Charbonnet were looking for the next man up at the running back position. And so those are the guys in my sights. If I can trade these guys for late first value, even by adding a second or adding something else to get there, I'm more interested in their value. But if I can't, pretty happy to keep them, because as both Russ and Zach said, it's all about opportunity. And right now they have it going into next year. And if they don't, then they've proven themselves to be players who can take advantage of opportunity when it does come their way. And takes a Kyron Williams in a phenomenal manner. So you don't want to panic trade them, but they are on the more interesting to get their value out of than not, because of their positional nature. So I think that just about caps it off. There's a whole, and I did a video series on career arcs for each position, and one of them was on running backs, and even second year running back breakouts, and Kyron's even further into that. They have lower expectations moving forward than if they'd done it in their rookie year, but that still doesn't mean they're not more usable than most running backs having had a breakout year, if that makes sense. So they're more rosterable than most running backs. Depends how your league treats it, because like I say, I think Dynasty players are going to be more skittish than trade away and trade net for videos. I'm going to make it sound, and you're not going to be able to get that value out of them, in which case just keep them. So it is about the trade, but they should be on there. I'd be interested in trading for their value if possible in my league, kind of a list. All right. Moving on, because again, my internet's so bad I can't hope to hold a conversation. Let's just give Zach and Russ some time to talk, because that's more fun. Anyway, Kevin says, what wars are on different squads next year? I think that's running back. No, wait.
Wide receivers,
different
WRs.
squads next year
WRS.
out of Ayuk.
Wide
I just
receivers?
added an A. That makes so much more sense.
A instead of the
Ayuk,
shift.
Higgins, Godwin.
Well, Ayuk and Higgins are still
Right.
on contracts for one more year, so not them.
Yeah.
Higgins, I would love to see the math that could keep him on the Bengals. Like that's, I don't know. So I do think Higgins ends up on a new team, and there's a lot of teams that I keep getting excited at the thought of him being on. I think like my 4 teams are like, let him stay on the Bengals. That's cool. Let him go to the Panthers because I like Bryce Young and because I just like the color of that jersey. It's like back when we were kids and starter jackets were the thing. All the girls had the Charlotte Hornets starter jackets because it was that pretty green color. Like, yeah, that's fine. Give me that pretty blue number 5 jersey. The Texans, because they have a whole lot of cap space and a really, 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 really good quarterback. And someone brought up the idea.
Looking as well.
Yeah, exactly. And someone brought up the idea of Arizona.
What more do they need to add but some more weapons?
Yeah. Like Arizona, Hollywood is at the end of his deal, and they don't really have anyone else. I mean, of course, they very well can just take Marvin Harrison at 2 or wherever they are these days. Hold on. Yeah, still at 2. Like, and then they won't really need T. Higgins, but of course, that's just what they would do to me: is draft Marvin Harrison, then sign T. Higgins because they just want to make me cry. Though again, I can't be sad about that. But I also just don't like red jerseys, and that would make me a little sad. Like orange is at least a little different, and it's cool, and there's tiger stripes. But like just the red Cardinals jerseys are ugly. That's my least favorite of the choices. Because, I mean, let's face it, I'm going to get a jersey to hang behind me, regardless of what team he's on.
I've always said we should just start an NFL fashion channel. This is better. This is good stuff. I like this.
We, for 2 straight years...
It's an underrated market.
For 2 straight years, when we first started the Trade Addicts pod, when we had nothing to talk about in the non-point scoring season, we had jersey rankings. Like, we would go every week we had a different like conference, East and AFC East, NFC East. Like, we would have a different guest on, and we would all go through our rankings and say what our favorite ones are and what our least favorite ones are. And then Har and I would always argue because he was wrong in saying that the powder blue Chargers jerseys weren't his favorite.
I was going to say that the powder blue Chargers and the Barry Sanders era Detroit, like those 2 jerseys to me are
the powder blue is absolutely where it's at. Like, those are easily the best. And like, I like the late 90s, early 2000s Seahawks. Like, that's literally like one of the main reasons why I chose to be a Seahawks fan for a while, was because I liked their jerseys.
The Brian Blades, Benny Blades.
Having never watched a game, I don't know what they look like. So.
Yeah. I'm watching football's overrated. Let's be honest.
I'm a homer. I like the old throwback Patriots with the Pat Patriot and the red.
I love the helmet.
I like
the
those.
helmet with the guy on it. The jerseys.
Oh yeah.
Because the red, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah, I think the red looks good too. But you gotta have like the white piping and like it looks nice.
Like, there's just a lot of jerseys in that area and era that are just like, we were doing the advent calendar for Fantasy Cares, and Bob would open a box and it's either a red or blue jersey.
Yeah,
and I'm like, is that the Bills? Is that the Giants? Is that the Patriots? Like, there's so many jerseys that look so similar.
So when you had the James Cook jersey, I was like, oh no, is that a Rondell Moore? Like, I'm so excited. And then he flipped it over and I was like, oh, I'm less excited now.
Yeah. I mean, it was still the best of those mystery box jerseys, but yeah. But like, still, it was.
I'm trying to remember how we got here, and it's because you're picking Higgins' team based on jerseys, right? Yeah. That's how we got there. Yeah. We think Higgins.
That's
okay.
Hey, Toronto Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Toronto Dave's party
8
hat
months
guy.
away for Toronto Dave.
Another week, another party hat guy. Flowsaurus, hey guys. In a 1-point PPR, if Commit is out, are you playing Everett versus Denver or Juwan versus Tampa Bay?
Everett.
Denver's terrible
I'd
against
have to
tight
look
ends.
at
They're
Yeah,
like the second worst. Like they give up the second most points to tight ends in the
He's
league.
so inconsistent.
Like I was so mad that Hunter Henry was out this past week because like the Patriots are completing passes to Pharaoh Brown. Like that was a thing this week because Denver is so bad against the tight end.
I mean, I was big on Juwan Johnson coming into the season, and of course injuries didn't help at all. And then the evergreen resurgence of Taysom Hill for a couple of weeks. But Everett, especially if Keenan Allen's out, he's the main target. He's getting a lot of targets. Of course, he doesn't always do a lot with them, but I think so. I guess the answer comes down to safety answer is Everett. Ceiling answer might be
Everett.
I think it's Everett. I think the ceiling is Everett too.
I want to believe that. And
Juwan Johnson's matchup is slightly better, by the way, but it's
better.
Denver's like 29th against tight end position, so it's not. And Tampa Bay is 32, so it is a better matchup. But
MFL has Denver at 32. Just to, but they literally just do fantasy points against them.
Nothing. 4 right?
Yeah. No, like there's smarter ways to find the number, but MFL literally just does fantasy points against. But that also does make me happy because losing Hawkinson in 12 Olympians, my backup tight end is Gerald Everett.
I saw that.
I know. You did. And I still can't do it. If Kelsey was scoring like Kelsey, I would be much more willing to send Hawkinson for Kelsey right now. But he's not. And I'm in the championship week starting Parker Washington as a wide receiver. So I'm just trying to like upgrade my wide receiver. And that's Steph Diggs. Like I didn't think Steph Diggs would be one of the down parts of my team. Mm-hmm. But I have Amari Cooper, so I'll be fine.
I traded for Stephon Diggs on a team where I'm trying to win like halfway through the season, and he hasn't had a good game since. I think it's my fault.
It's your fault.
Like legitimately. The minute I traded for him, he hasn't put up over 10 points since. That hasn't worked out so well. Because my monitor's broken, I explained.
No, he typed that when you were explaining it. That's on purpose.
Sure. Bo Bonds. I could see KJ Osborne on a new team. Probably. Who cares, though, really, when you think about it?
He'll probably just be there.
He has flashes. I'm holding him. He's the kind of depth wide receiver I either want to tear up. I'm actually a little more willing to cut than most, but sure, if you don't have to. If he goes to a Chiefs side team, I'm holding.
Clogger. Yep, that's the real answer on KJ.
The only reason I'd agree with this is if you're holding him so someone else gets excited when he goes to the Chiefs, and then you can trade him to that person. Like, don't be the person getting excited. Yeah. Like, he's fine. I'm not insulting the player so much as a fantasy asset or likely upside of that fantasy asset. But that's cool. Brian, redraft question. Then we won't answer it. So only 3 lead running backs have not scored 12 points against the Chiefs in a half-point PPR this season. Am I really about to start? He had a good week last week, didn't he? CH over Derrick Henry? I hope not. Who busted 2 weeks ago against Houston. I think it's Henry, but I get the rhythm.
Yeah.
The only reason is that. Wait, hold on. Only 3 lead running backs have not scored 12 points against the Chiefs, but CEH is on the Chiefs.
I feel like he probably meant for the Chiefs this year, but I could be wrong.
Like that's the thing. Like if Pacheco is out, maybe it's a thing. But like, man,
well, Pacheco has a
Henry had a bad game,
but
you don't bet against
protocol
Henry in December.
Yeah.
For me, the answer, because it is a playoffs, it's a 1 week event, and it's a redraft question as well, so you don't even have to worry about that. And the question for me is always, how would you rather lose, starting CEH or starting Derrick Henry? And it might be a different answer for different people. I would rather lose starting Derrick Henry than lose starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm just going to start Henry. That's what projections say as well. But hey, Brian, you watch. You've got you're putting in your own research. If you would rather lose because you really do think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire should do better, then you start Clyde Edwards-Helaire, to be clear. But that's a question I would ask myself. For me, if you're asking my answer, I would start Derrick Henry. Yeah.
And I just realized the reason he brought up Derrick Henry busting against Houston.
They're playing him again.
Playing him again. That wasn't just Derrick Henry. That entire offense was trash. Like they saw Stroud wasn't playing, and then they played down to their competition. Like it was bad. I don't think that will happen again.
And Henry still got 16 carries in that. Like,
he got the work. Didn't do anything with it. Like it was like 16 carries for 9 yards, I think.
Yeah, and four receptions. Like, I still would be hard pressed to go. Against Derrick Henry.
Except for remember that time.
It's just how would you rather lose? And then you
zone catch, and then CEH high pointed over some guy the next play. So maybe we do start CEH.
I guess you could ask it the other way. How would you rather win? But I'm not a positive fella, Brian. But that's honestly, that's the way to answer this question because no one knows the future. I have tendencies based on my own experience, and we could argue about the predictability of volume, but that's just what projections are telling you. Projections are telling you that Derrick Henry is the better start when all information is taken into account. We're just going to trust that. But it is your team, and you have gotten things right when the industry gets things wrong. So ask yourself that question. And if you come out with a different answer, that's perfectly fine. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, you still made the best decision because you thought about it and you know why you made that decision, right? And that would be fine because no one knows the future. Gavin Ferguson, Russell Wilson, 2024 Atlanta Falcons quarterback.
He's going to be someone else's quarterback.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
like there's
just a whole bunch of designed runs.
Russell
Wilson in Atlanta,
handing off to Tyler Algier.
Or
no, we don't think he could
stomach retirement.
No, he's self-image when A, young, and B seems like the guy that needs his routine.
Yeah,
they seem like they're willing to do something. It's only 30-something, by the way.
It doesn't. Yeah, so if they cut him before March or trade him, that's why they're not playing him right now. So the way that contract is structured, if he got hurt, it's fully guaranteed. But if they cut him or trade him before March,
they're moving on.
Doesn't get hurt, then it's not the next year is guaranteed, but everything after that is non-guaranteed. So like whatever next year
says to me they're definitely going to try and move on. I mean, that might be their intention, and it doesn't work out that way. But their intention right now is to Russell Wilson not be there next year.
Russell Wilson will not be the starting quarterback of the Broncos next year. He can't be at this point.
Yeah.
You get a bench a guy just to make sure his contract isn't guaranteed, then that's pretty definite, I think. I mean, it does give him options, but that's their intention for sure. Flosaurus, if Stroud doesn't play, are you playing Brissett versus San Francisco or Stidman versus the Los Angeles Chargers? Lost Russell Wilson, and you're better off for it. Let's see.
Russell Wilson was fine for fantasy. I take the guy not playing San Francisco. I don't care what Brissett just did. The Chargers defense is really, really bad. And the last time we saw Stidham play, he did pretty well. Of course, it's a different team now, but whatever. He's Tom Brady's backup at one point, which means he's awesome. Just like Garoppolo and Hoyer and all those other guys. But still, I play Stidham just because of the matchup. I don't think Brissett's throwing 3 touchdowns on 3 drives. I stay Stidham or trade. for some
I
reason.
have projections because it's based on an injury that hasn't happened or a declaration that hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. Brissett, I guess, just to be contrary. Because I like Brissett, damn it. Andrew Luck said good things about him. I remember that forever. Russ, do we get a golden ticket giveaway on Dynasty Grind, or is that only a fantasy care thing? It's only a show that Russ cares about thing. I'm not going to do it here.
Russ cares about this show. Russ just can't do that right now. But Russ can remind you to go to fantasycares.org/coats for kids, and your donation will get you a thank you gift of a Fantasy Cares hat and scarf combination
I can't wait to get mine.
to keep you warm.
That's actually a
and
really cool combination right there. That's nice.
to get kids new coats for the winter. I could wear this for
I
like
like that
4
color
minutes
scheme.
before I
That's
start boiling. But these came out
Do it.
so good. I was so happy with it. Like they just
look great.
like, and this which
Nice.
the stitching is just nice and Fantasy Cares and has the little pom pom. So when I go through the doorway of the submarines, I don't bump my head. That's why the pom poms were invented on beanies, by the way.
Got
in
it.
case you didn't know.
Oh,
I'm
really?
sure Zach knows
Shouldn't
that.
it be at the front then? Because it feels like it hit your head before it got back there.
No, like you duck down, but you lift your head
Like you'd
too
hit
early.
your head and then it hit. Didn't know that. Also, Russ, you said you were busy on XMAs, but did you see Doctor Who Christmas special? I love
Nope.
those names.
My kids won't go to sleep, and my kids have off of school, so I can't even like just stop working to go watch it. So no, I still haven't. I'll probably have to watch it like I have to like Benadryl my kids to sleep.
We should have just dropped in a fourth screen, run Doctor Who in the fourth screen so we could do like a screening of Doctor Who and fantasy football questions.
I'm down.
Honestly, Brian, I might be too cocky, so I'm going to be punished by it, but I can't see how I can lose any of the finals that I'm in. I'm pretty well set up. And one of them's best ball, and I'm like, I would have to lose to the next best team by 150 points. So my entire matchup would have to get injured, and the other one, like,
Yeah, but like it's really which league do you want to win more? Like which league win will mean the most to you? Yeah, can't do this anymore.
That best ball one, it pays more, I guess. No, yeah, I'm not in the DLF final, and I'm not in the Trade Addicts final, which would be the two that would carry some. I don't really have a home league or a main league, so
You could have both a home league and a main league if you wanted to come to Maine to be in the home league next year. It's a live draft.
that is a good reason to move to Maine, actually. I do like
Or
Maine.
everybody just moved to New
That's it.
Jersey.
I'm moving
here. So
how
I mean,
about you
for
guys?
me,
Have you got a main league or one that you care about more?
I'm in the Trade Addicts 3 final, and that would just make my heart glow to win that league. Any trade, like again, like I just want to win Trade Addicts leagues because we are in year 5, I want to say, of the Trade Addicts leagues. There were 4 the first year, and then 5, 6, and 7, and then 1 a year after that. So I'm not doing the math to see how many leagues there have been over the years, but it's a lot. I've won one of them once. So I just want to win as many Trade Addicts leagues as humanly possible. So that's the one that will mean the most to me. But also because, like I said, I think I'm in 4 finals. I won 2 of them last year also. And Zach's in both of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm only in 1 final, so it's that final. But like in terms of leagues that are the most, that would be fun. I want to trade for Brock Purdy. Start Brock Purdy as my
just to
saying
you can't win a championship with Brock Purdy.
I did it. But so like that one is the only championship that I have. But like in terms of leagues, like I have a home league. Like we do an in-person rookie draft every year. We do a trade day, in the middle of the season where we all get together, although we didn't do it this year because life kind of happened. But like normally we do a trade day where like we get together and like just hang out and watch games and like physically are in the same place and trade. And so that one is a lot of fun. The loser buys the pizza for the draft the next year.
Love it.
We actually have a pizza bracket. So even if you're the worst team, if you can manage not to lose twice in the playoffs of the pizza bracket, you can still get out of, but whoever loses the pizza bracket buys the pizza. Like that. That's just a really fun league. And like I said, a live draft. So that's my favorite league. I think honestly, like TA, like I've been wanting to be in a trade addicts league forever. And so like to be able to be in the finals of my first one is kind of fun too. And that's a tough league.
It was pretty easy for me to get the 101.
My Nickelodeon theme league. Jacob Rickroad, Clutch Fantasy is actually second place. Gerald Parker, third place. I've even got Metric Scout in that league, although he's pretty low. And John Dabari, I'm about to kick all their asses this week. It's a week 17 final, and that'll feel pretty good because all of Sal Lito's in this league. They're all pretty good players, and I'm about to win it. That'll feel. It's also on the back of a 3-year rebuild where I got crushed year one because I drafted Andrew Luck. And so I'm like, yeah, but I like seeing him squirm. So hopefully, I'm just joking. But yeah, I guess I've got to pick one. I'm pretty happy to win that one. Tough competition makes a good league.
Yeah.
Or at least fun competition. Genji. Sleeker mock startups are better there. If you say so. I was going to say my favorite platform to play on was the one, probably because I started there, ESPN. I love the sound effect. If nothing else, I really enjoy the ESPN platform, but they don't do Dynasty, at least not in a good way. So I haven't played that in years. But I did enjoy their draft room and stuff. Sleeper just sucks. I'm sorry, Sleeper. You're trying, and I like seeing a new, newly created platform that's actually trying to take advantage of the stuff we can do now. But I can't figure it out. I can't figure out where the playoffs are. I never know the brackets unless the commissioner sets it to where that shows up first. It seems impossible to figure out. It's designed to be used by a phone, and I want to do it on my PC. I don't want to use my phone, so I don't like it. It's that simple. That's why I'm a PC player. I'm not a. If you use your phone,
I sit on my computer all day.
I get it. But,
yep.
I mean, for fantasy football at least, because I want to be able to spread the information out and look at it. I don't like it. Seems limiting. Hypothetically, championships are decided. Trade windows are reopened. Who are 2 to 3 players you're trying to immediately obtain or sell before the value rises or declines? It's a good question right this time of year.
T. Higgins, because either he's still on the Bengals or he'll be the number 1 wide receiver somewhere, or my luck across from Marvin Harrison Jr. Jackson Smith and Jigba before people get too wise on it. I don't really have a list. Someone asked this question yesterday. Someone asked this question.
I don't get. I have to admit.
Yesterday, and I didn't have a good answer either. I probably said those same 2 names, honestly. And I still don't have any really good, like, I'm going to go try and get this guy. Like, I remember last year, it was a lot of lower tiered wide receivers. Like, I want to scoop up Wan'Dale Robinson everywhere just because, like, he had that when he was healthy, he was doing it, with the volume and just, but I don't really have anyone that I'm all in on right now at that low of a level. So I don't really know. I don't have a good answer for this right now.
No, I mean, I think
for me, it was on Martin Brown, Kittle.
A great answer. And to me, Devontae Smith is another. I think he gets, even though he's been great, I think he gets undersold a little bit too.
He was better last year than he was this year. And anytime you don't do as well as you did last year, people think you're bad. But like, I can't really say that because I probably have him on close to 50% of my teams already. So.
And I mean, that's the same thing with like
Is it
Waddle
gonna
and Garrett
be a
Wilson.
Jamar Chase window?
Waddle. I got sent an offer. Like, the bad offers I've been getting for Jalen Waddle have been, most recently, someone sent me on a team that I'm going into my TA3 team. Someone sent me Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon for Jalen Waddle.
Ugh.
And
Come
then,
on now.
yeah. And then gotta love Trader Joe, who sends me an offer, DMs me, and says, "Here, I'm sending you a deal that if you take this, you can go sell Jalen Hurts, who you just got, and get better pieces." He sends me Joe Flacco, Nick Mullins, and 2 seconds for Jalen Waddle. And I literally just reply, "Ew."
Nice.
He said, "I never said it was a good offer. I just said you'd be able to move Hurts for more pieces." And I'm like, you could just offer me Joe Flacco for something crappy and we can have the same conversation, you know?
Help me help you.
I actually have a table that sorts my ranks versus the average and also versus DLF that answers these questions for me. But our rankings engine's been down for a little while, so I haven't been able to update it. At a guess, I think Jalen Waddle's still going to be on it. Maybe Kyler Murray if people are disappointed. Higgins is a good one, but after his last 2 weeks, I'm not sure he's going to get there. I think Saquon Barkley might sneak into that category because Giants been disappointing. He's one of those few running backs. Bijan Robinson and Chase, I'm going to look at pretty hard because Chase has been disappointing. But he's Jamar Chase. And Bijan Robinson hasn't been everything to everyone. Like, I really thought he could and would be. Like we said this offseason, I thought he was going to reinvigorate people on the running back position. I don't think he did that. But I think he could. Like the same way Breece Hall paid off targeting him this offseason. Worked out pretty well. So it depends how low or how the market, as it were, or my league mates feel. But those are some other names. I have to run that table before I know for sure. Ezekiel Elliott, league winner. Oh,
do you remember, like 4 weeks ago, we had somebody in here asking if they should trade a third for Ezekiel Elliott?
And we were like, ew. Yeah, I remember.
No. Not all of us were like, ew.
I said I was more like, fine. But it wasn't the guy I was looking for. Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson was out. Now he's on IR.
Yeah, I know. I was like, sure, why not? It's a third. Zeke will have the ball. I'm not. It's really funny that trade where I got Jalen Hurts in TA3. I also got Zeke Elliott, though I'm not going to be starting him.
Yeah. Philip J. Fry from Futurama, I assume. No PPR tight end premium superflex start 9 4 QB 4 points per touchdown for QB, surely not start 4. This is the team. He has 103 and all his other picks for the next 2 years. Currently in finals. What off-season moves do you suggest for this team? Looking over, you're really strong everywhere. That's why you're in the finals. And so just concentrate on winning the final, to be honest with you. And I'm worried about the off-season and the off-season. However, some of your back-end wide receivers are getting a little old. Can maybe look to move them for more value moving forward. Best guess. But outside of that, you're pretty happy to sit.
So my advice would be, when you're putting up your shelf to hold the championship trophy, use anchors. So you're not necessarily, it's because you don't want the screws to pull out of the drywall. You also, like, if you get a good stud finder, kind of line things up. They should be 60 on center. Yeah.
Can't be sitting there a while.
That would be my advice. The only other thing that I would say is, if you can get back into the 24 draft with your 25 first round pick and a piece, I would probably do that.
I'd also be looking to
No, I think that in this format, with it being super flex, there are at least 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks that are going to be fairly highly drafted. I am 8 wide receivers deep right now. Emeka Ibuka, who I thought was going to be the second wide receiver, is currently 8th. So, like, this class is ridiculous. Like, I am really excited about the wide receiver group in this class. And so if you can make a move to get back in with your 25 pick into this 24 class, it looks like the quarterback class in 25 is going to be a little thin. There are going to be a couple high-end wide receivers and maybe a couple running backs, but the overall class is going to be a lot thinner. And this class, like I said, has got at least 3 quarterbacks, maybe 4. It's got 6 or 7 or 8 wide receivers that I'm interested in. It's got Brock Bowers, who is what people wanted Kyle Pitts to be. And so, like, this is a really good class to be in the first round multiple times with.
He already has a 103 as well, so I really like that direction. The only weakness on this team, your QB2, I'd rather Kyler was a QB2 and we somehow turn Fields into Allen, Mahomes, Herbert. That's about it. That's about the list. But that's just pie in the sky stuff because Zach's direction is probably a better one to go in. Try and get another 24 mid to high first. God, you're handsome. I like it.
I got nothing.
Trevor Lawrence, price check. Probably too low right now if you're trying to trade away. Probably a good time to send an offer on one of those second tier guys. He could enter that Dak Prescott window where
I don't think he should have played this week.
He's fine.
Like I don't know why they keep playing him when he's hurt. Tears up his ankle. He might miss a couple of weeks. He plays next week. He has a concussion. Plays next week. Hurts his shoulder. Plays next week. Let the dude rest. Oh my God. Like I think like exactly what Peter said. Maybe it just means it's time to go send some offers to go acquire him because he's really, really good. And I'm not worried of him whatsoever. So yeah. Also on that note, it's my bedtime. I gotta go.
Good night, Russ.
I am not here next week. So
enjoy. Have the best time.
It's the happiest place in the world.
I will be, but probably very, very tired if I'm getting my dates right. So, just saying. Philip J. Fry, again, start sit, no PPR, no tight end premium. Forget it. Play Kareem Hunt this Thursday night football. Always could score a touchdown, which is what you're looking for in that format. Or wait, risk and hope these guys. Waddle, Chase, Rodriguez. That's really the choice. I don't think Hunt starts over Waddle. There's no PPR though. I think I play Chase or Waddle though. Still,
I would say I think I would risk it, but there's no guarantee that they play. Like they may not play.
True.
Like, Waddle got banged up. Chase has been injured. Like.
True. I think I hope to start one of those.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm not going to bank on Kareem Hunt.
Because with your format, it kind of makes more sense. But yeah, you're just hoping that red zone roll pays off into a touchdown. Just take one of those two. Hope one of them starts. J-Dub, 1 QB. Would you send the 102, JMO, and Christian Watson for Hill? Tyreek Hill? Or just go with Nabbers at 2? I can't see me doing that. I can't see me trading for Tyreek Hill unless I'm trying to start him this week.
Well, and if you earned the 102,
yeah, it's done.
Don't go trade for Tyreek Hill. Like that's not you can do better than that.
Now, Jemo, Watson, and a first for Hill, all in. But the 102 this year on a team that's probably not, I'm guessing you're not in the finals since you're more into a trading mood here. No. But I like the idea of trading those two with a pick to get something, but that's not him. I didn't ask about Flacco last week, as I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be out. Nice. 40 touchdowns 4 years in a row. It's time to put Josh Allen in his own tier at the top. Well, he and Mahomes have been in their own tier for me, and Hurts just joined it. So I get it. Josh Allen's been consistently fantastic, but that's what that tier is for.
We're in a really cool era of quarterbacks. There's some very good ones.
Yeah. Brees or Gibbs in Dynasty Keeper League? Brees.
Yeah, just barely, though.
Yeah, fair. Gavin Ferguson, any reason why Stroud shouldn't be in the Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow tier? Well, just point of order, Mahomes is in a separate tier, but Stroud should be in the Herbert, Burrow tier, yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've got a 3-player tier at the top, and it's very difficult to touch it. But Stroud is right there with the rest of it. Like, I want him in there, and I want early as possible just to get an edge on anyone else. Like, yeah, this has been a spectacular rookie debut. Stephen White, is 104 Deshaun and a 25 first a reasonable offer for Josh Allen? It's a reasonable offer. I would reject it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think that gets accepted. I think Deshaun Watson is cooked.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah.
he probably holds the least value out of those 3 pieces.
I'd be less concerned, but it's not like he's not a player teams might be looking to distance themselves from if the play isn't elite. Like, there's baggage there, you know. Andrew Carlson, long-term prospect for Jake Browning, Sam Howell, below Gardner Minshew. Like, I don't think he's been as impressive as Minshew was when he came in to do a similar thing. And so he falls way down below that tier. Sam Howell's a little more interesting. There's a lot of team decisions that I have no insight on. But I think the team's been less happy than fantasy owners have been with Sam Howell. And we know he's got issues on his profile that persistently are a concern. So I'm getting a little skittish on him. Yeah.
He has been benched this week, Peter.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett's playing. So, like, those 2 guys are, in my mind, backup quarterbacks.
I would have Howell above Browning, to be clear.
Yeah, but they're both backup quarterbacks who, when they play, will put up fantasy points, but they're not going to be long-term solutions for an NFL team.
Howell's destined for the Minshew role on Superflex rosters. You know, Browning's just a name, and a fair play to him to step into the NFL, to be able to play in the NFL at quarterback is pretty impressive, even if it's only for a game or 2. It's phenomenal, but we're grading on a curve, and it's a really steep curve in the NFL. And I don't know. Jazz Fresh, welcome back. She lost the semifinals. Sat Derrick Henry for Garrett Wilson matchup versus Commanders. Went against starting wide receivers with bad QBs. Overthought it. P.S. I hate Waddle. Yeah, Waddle can really. He can burn you. That's okay, though. You know why you made the decision. You feel like now you overthought it, but at the time, you just put a process on it. I don't think the process was terrible. You tried to play matchups. We know they can be skittish. Just add it to the list of past experience that you get to draw upon for the next one, right? Maybe you'll lean running back when it's a Derrick Henry level running back next time. But I don't think it was a terrible decision. We don't know the future, and you had a process in mind, you know? Personally, that's what I'd say to you. Did someone mention Pop Douglas? No, never happened.
You say Pop Douglas 3 times and Genji appears.
I set Flowers because he did nothing like Henry. Flowers has got that volume, man. He's an interesting offseason, but I know I can stand to buy any more Baltimore receivers outside of Andrews, obviously, but again, he's a tempting fella. Considering I just lost TJ Hawkinson, was hoping my tight ends would hit over Logan Thomas. Yeah. Wide receiver 49 and keep trade cut, by the way, Pop Douglas. That's about right. And also, you know, he's rosterable. He's rosterable in Dynasty, but 56 on trade count. I don't need to know all the ranks. Thank you very much, Kenji. Traylon Burks and Jody Smith. I can't tell the difference. Jonas Smith might be startable every now and again, positionally. It hurts to say it. Why do you keep making me say these things? I love his little epitaph, by the way, Genji League winner. Like, I did that. So, I'm a league winner. Marvin Mims breakout coming these 2 weeks and a good QB. He's on my strong if there's ever interest sell list at this point. It's been a rough introduction for Marvin Mims. A profile I did like coming in. He still might have Josh Reynolds like usability at some point later into his career, but it's been rough. But then again, you can blame a lot on Russell Wilson, so why not this? Stephen White, I have the 101, the 103, the 109, the 111, toying with grabbing both wide receivers with the first 2 picks. Do I have a QB need? Do I have a QB need? I have Kyler currently. If it's a super flex, it's never a need, but yeah, 2 QBs is ideal. Thoughts? I do have 4 firsts in 25 at the moment. And not close to competing. If it's a 1 QB, to be real clear, you never need a quarterback. And since you have one great one, you have an excess of quarterbacks. If it's a super flex, yeah, I think you should still keep pummeling quarterback as much as you can. Yeah. I always like Steven's profile picture, by the way. Like, it's just it makes me smile. It's naturally.
It's the exactly what you said. If it's a super flex, that 101 is probably a quarterback. Like, again, I haven't fully fleshed out my rookie work yet, but it's probably a quarterback. It's probably going to be Caleb Williams. And you're going to get a wide receiver at the 103. You may even end up with the wide receiver at the 103. Or if you want to be really funny and you don't care whether you get Caleb Williams or Drake May, take the wide receiver with the 101 and then take whichever quarterback is left over at the 103. Like, you can play it that way too. I do think that if it's a 1 quarterback league, you're not taking a quarterback up. You may toy with one at like 109. But don't take.
I haven't gotten into my rookie work, like I said, but I really kind of like that idea off the top of your head. Just taking Harrison, getting that locked in, because I have looked at his profile and based on up till last year, just probably take him 101. And just get the second best quarterback. That'd be fine by me. Matt, not really a complete dynasty question. That's fine. But help will be appreciated in a Keep 13 league. It's pretty much dynasty. QB, 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, tight end, 2 regular flexes. He has Tua, Murray, Monty, Aaron Jones, nice, James Cook, Dylan, Carter, Pickens, and Ridley. Downs, Hopkins, Reed, Douglas. There he is again. Hawkinson, thoughts on what do I do? Keep, trade, cut. Well, you do it by ranks, man. Unless there's a cost to keeping certain players, which can happen in keeper leagues. Let's see, you're trying to keep 13. So in a 1 QB, I'd still keep Tua. Tua or Murray, actually, you can keep either. I'd probably keep James Cook. You don't even have 13 players I feel strong about holding here, so you can keep all of them. Probably keep Hawkinson for sure. He's earlier on the list. Yeah, I'd keep one of your quarterbacks, at least one of them. I'd probably lean Murray, but 2 is perfectly fine. Keep Pickens next. And then your running backs, man. I would drop Carter and probably Ridley over some of those running backs right now. Keep Downs, keep Reed, keep... I tell you what, looking at your team, the best thing I can say, because I don't even think there are 13 players listed here, so you can keep all of them. You need to tier some up to make them really good keepers, because that's the thing about a keeper league. You just want to keep, I think you keep tearing up until all of your keepers are more rock solid, because you're trying to build a more substantial lineup. So Reed, Hopkins to some teams, Downs to some teams, Pop Douglas if Genji's in the league. Keep Hawkinson, keep both your quarterbacks and keep your running backs, and try to do what you can to mush some of these wide receivers into a higher tier. That would be my thought. Gavin Ferguson, just a fun reminder. I expected rookie QB 1, wide receiver 1, and running back 1 have yet to declare. We don't even know who the class is, but I really don't know enough about the class to get the referencing. I guess that's Williams and Harrison haven't declared yet.
I mean, it's
the running back one. This feels like a Bishop Sankey year. Someone we kind of like is going to end up in a good situation, and they're going to be overdrafted. You know.
I mean, yeah, you can be negative on it, Gavin, but
Okay.
they're like people are going to declare, people are going to come out. One or two of them may not. The running backs don't really matter in this class anyway, because I don't have any idea who the running back one is, but they're not a running back one, if that makes sense. And so
it does.
Whatever.
A to Z. Hi, gents. Struggling with an offer in a 12-team Superflex Dynasty. 1 point PPR. Out of contention this year, offering Waddle and Hawkinson for Tyreek and Njoku. I want the Waddle and Hawkinson side in almost any situation outside of needing to start a tight end this week to win. So I probably want the Hawkinson Waddle side no matter what. Team is Burrow, Lamar, AJ Brown, Jaden Reed. He shouldn't be listed that high. And Kyron and Junk. Cool. Jaden Reed's a strong, let's see if I can tear him up candidate this offseason. And yeah, I want the Waddle Hawkinson side like very easily for me.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. Even though Njoku had a really good year and Tyreek Hill's
had a great year. I mean, Tyreek Hill's having a historic year, right? I mean, not to take anything away from him. Higbee or Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill should always be available on the waiver wire for when that fund starts, in my opinion. Trying to pick up Stidham. Yeah, cut Taysom Hill. These guys won't touch my lineup with your roster. Hurricane Lane, new stat for 24. Don't have half my roster get hurt. Nice. And then don't have my Stroud Nico stack go down in the playoffs. Yeah, it's been a rough injury. They're all rough injury years, let's face it. Anyways, a trade, Superflex, 4-point passing touchdown, PPR, start 9. Playoffs, second, not mine, for Geno Smith. I'm in the finals by sheer luck, and I cannot start AOC. AOC?
Aiden O'Connell.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind.
A second round pick for Geno? Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
That's
do
fine.
it. Suck it up. Do it. Let's fucking try and win. Bo Pons, by the way, the reason I comment earlier is I have 2 kids. It's fine, by the way, Bo Pon. I don't call it out to say it's bad. Like I like knowing you're interested enough. You take the time out of your day when your time is valuable. If nothing else, you could be spending time with kids, which is 100% a better use of it. To send us a question so we have something to talk about. I really appreciate it, man. You comment whenever you want and however much you want. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it. It's a 50-50 shot if I can watch live tonight. And that's perfectly fine as well. We just appreciate you being around whenever you can be, man. Truly. Gavin Ferguson, nervous about Sam Fran pulling starters, always concerned, or lessening their loads, especially if they get a lead. Wrapped up home field advantage and bye. Purdy could have went back in versus Baltimore, and then Shanahan said, nah. Yeah, it's a real concern, and there's no real way to weight it for you, honestly, Gavin. You're just going to have to make the best bet. What I would say is if they do try and pull that kind of move, they're probably going to roll them out to start with, and they're probably going to want a pretty safe lead before they start pulling players, which means there are probably points scored before that point, if it helps moderate it for you, or make you feel a little bit more confident. But yeah, honestly, I'm not on the coaching staff, and even the coaching staff don't know probably until they're in the game. They're like, let's just keep that guy safe. I'm still starting CMC. Nothing can stop me, and Debo. Hey, Kent. Nice to see you. Watching Likely and Lamar getting stopped at the 1-yard line was brutal. Yeah, that last minute. Didn't he score a rushing touchdown fairly late into the game, though? I'm hoping Lamar wins some weeks as well as lost some for others. Please, Ravens, cut Gus. Aw, not Gus of birth.
He was one of the guys. He was one of the guys that we wanted to add cheap at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Traded Bajon for CMC and a Dino champ. Yes, absolutely. Go win, Ken. You're good.
Yeah, Ken, I like
know.
that. I know that value-wise, you probably lose a little bit, but you can also, once you win, turn around and trade CMC to somebody, or ride them again next year, whatever.
Use them to win next year.
Yeah. So
use anchor bolts as exactly.
I believe it was the movie Bull Durham. There's a quote that was something to the effect of, "I love winning. It's like better than losing."
Looking at Kincaid as the more expensive, more talented version of what McBride was this last offseason. I actually think McBride was a better
both
prospect.
are wrong.
McBride is better. Yeah,
McBride is better, and he is more expensive, but he is not as talented as McBride.
No. Underwhelming rookie year. He's actually had a relatively positive rookie year, certainly better than McBride. He's had a better rookie year than McBride had. Going to boom when Diggs goes to the Cowboys. I think Diggs predicting too many ifs there for me. But no, I think McBride's now that he's actually done it in the NFL, because for a while now, I've felt like I just missed a McBride. But now he's done it in the NFL, so he's translated. I'm back in on McBride was one of the better prospects I've seen at the tight end position as a receiver, at least, like head and shoulders above a Kincaid profile.
I mean, there are two guys in this class that are head and shoulders above the Kincaid profile.
Fair.
One of them is the tight end 1 currently.
Genji, league winner. The running back quality of this class really put a hamper on my 24 picks.
No, but it did put a hamper on your running back picks.
I mean, we have probably a difference-making tight end, a difference-making wide receiver, and several quarterbacks, especially if it's a super flex, are going to fill out rosters pretty well. And I've barely gotten into this class, and Zach says there are multiple wide receivers that are very exciting. Don't draft position, but you'll be fine.
Like Marvin Harrison is the only thing I don't like on his profile is he's an often contested catch guy, and that sometimes is. But he's actually good Mike Williams, which makes him like T. Higgins plus. Malik Neighbors is great. I really like Xavier Worthley, who is out of Texas, who is like a small. He's you're gonna love him, Peter, because he's small. He's like 6 foot, like 165. Like he's but he's like fast, drives a lot of targets, can do stuff both. Before he's got the ball and after he's got the ball. Troy Franklin out of Oregon is really interesting. He's a bigger, he's 6'2". He can get over the top. Rome Odunze, who I didn't really love last year when I watched him, but he put another year of pretty good film on tape. He's a 4th-year guy at Washington. So, there's just a lot of really good wide receivers in this class just already, and I haven't even started to scratch the surface.
I was just looking at that Devi data I put out a little while ago. Again, it's only up to 2022, but I was looking up Worthy. He broke out at a 20 and 30% threshold at age 18. I'm probably going to like this guy. 2.3 receiving yards per team. That's really high. Wow. What conference is that? 2.3?
Who are you looking at?
Worthy. In the Big 12? How's he not scoring higher in my model? Right now he's scoring fine, but just looking at the numbers off the top of that, rip here. Yeah, he looks interesting. If he's small, I'm going to fall in love. Genji, now if I want to compete, I have to go buy used running back. It's always been the case. Yeah. There's a couple from the draft. Normally one that's unexpected, quote unquote, second, third round pick. And it's always been the CAHs of the world. Like Derrick Henry's been doing it a minute. Scribbles, out of the 1-on-1 and 12-team Superflex League, would you feel comfortable moving back, and to what pick? Have Herbert and nothing. If you're building, you don't need to corner yourself into I need to do certain things. You're just continually trying to move forward. The 1-on-1, that should be in a tier of value in a Superflex League with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. Trade it as if it's one of those assets, and you're looking for more things that add more value with more certainty and less risk over time. Now, it's such a high value tier, you're probably going to make a 101 pick even on a building team because you need a lot back. But don't corner yourselves into what kind of move do I have to make. No, leave yourself open to everything. But again, trade it as if it is one of those elite assets because it should be in any league in any year.
Yeah, and I mean it's gonna be a really high profile quarterback. So
ideally you're gonna get Harrison based on what you're saying about your team, but you shouldn't draft for team need. You should just consider making sure you get the most certain player with the pick that you make. Which, as I said, I haven't dug into this class, but Harrison, from all reports, should be as good as it can get versus taking a quarterback even in a super. You should take the quarterback or trade back a few spots. But the draft is the only thing that's going to make us more certain about how far back you want to, if you want Harrison, trade back. So for now, just plan on having that pick unless someone gives you the 102 plus 2 other first-round picks in the next few years, kind of a thing. It should be that level of thing. I think the running back class is not that bad as others are thinking. Haven't dug in. I think it's looking mid. It's looking like the least interesting position. But everything the way I evaluate it is going to be trained on the 2017 class, It's going to be trained on that big difference-making class because that's what we're all seeking. But Alvin Kamara came from that class and would have looked bad using those models. So, I don't know. I haven't dug into it yet. There's always a chance.
Oh, see, we like Kamara and Hunt, but
that's fine.
I'd be like just that from a film perspective. But to me, again, this class looks a lot more put together like the 2014 class.
Oh, really?
Again, not that it is. I'm not saying that, but it's
right.
It's high end. There are a lot of wide receivers and a lot of high end wide receivers and a lot of mid to high end wide receivers, and then the running backs are there are a couple of guys who are fine. Trevion Henderson's fine, but it's not a class where you're super excited. I mean, it's like Trevion Henderson, Braylon Allen. There are a couple guys that okay, but
yeah, running backs can really change their stars over the course of a single season, so it's hard to say. But my average pre-draft model, I think scores a 9, for a first-round running back. An 8 maybe it's an 8. I forget. I have 3 guys here scoring over 7. That's the best I got. Henderson, Carson Steele, and Braylon Allen.
Yep.
All right. There you go. It's fine. It's a fine score. It's just not a eye-boggling score.
Right.
Rasheen Allen. I haven't looked. Sounds like a good name, though. Genji, taking Bijan 101 in the 23 wasn't such a bad thing. No, it wasn't a bad thing at all. To be honest, looking ahead, I looked out. I was able to get Stroud at 105. Oh, perfect. In the same league, I grabbed Bijan Robinson. I would still defend, knowing the result, I would still take Bijan Robinson at 101. It's just the more likely expectation, and he hasn't busted yet. It's not a Trent Richardson type occurrence, who actually had a pretty solid rookie year, by the way. I have 0 Bijan Robinson. I've got him on one winning team as well. I actually drafted Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs on one team that's going to win this year, but I traded Gibbs away to get Ross St. Brown, which still feels pretty strong. Scribbles, what would you do with Waddle? Trade for him. If I have him, I'm holding him right now. You're not going to get good trades. Obviously, very frustrating season with many injuries and being overshadowed by Hill for targets. It's not how I describe it, but cool. Still like the talent, but value is depressed. Yeah, it is. So try and trade for him where you don't have him would be. And again, when you're convinced of the player, and sometimes I get caught by this. I was convinced of Juju, and he never repeated after that second year. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but if you're convinced of the player and there's a dip, like a Burrow right now, an injured TJ Hawkinson, if people don't like him anymore, I guess. but you're convinced of the player, you trade into those windows. And then if it goes wrong, like trying to figure out what I got wrong about Juju is the next step of my process. I still haven't figured that one out, by the way. Other than he was a second-year breakout, so I should maybe have been slightly less excited. It was just based on my rookie profile, and I think I double counted some co-founders. Basically.
He's so much better as a 2 in an offense with a really good 1. Like,
and again, that's simple. Yeah.
Look,
from an NFL perspective,
that was like even like if I dig up my write-up of him. Like that was he's so good at beating zone coverage, and the way the NFL plays right now, where they play a lot of like junk, and they'll like cover the outside receivers man, and then they'll run some sort of if they're nickel or dime or cover 2 and that sort of thing. So like the middle is open, and he's so good at doing that. But if you don't have the guys on the outside that are actually driving the coverage and dictating that somebody like rolls over to help, then he's got a lot more congestion in the middle. And it's just, and he also got nicked. Like he got hurt a bunch. And so it's not.
Yeah.
But
let me dare to try and ask a question about something that's about football, which is not my field. What's the difference between him and Cup? Now, obviously, there are a lot of differences, but I've heard you say Cup is also like someone who feeds on zone. So fall in between the spaces.
Yes. So Cup eats zones, but also is really good and really
okay. So he's got the other skill set too.
Yeah, I'll find you my Cup right up. I'll dig. I
only ever remember half of what you say, and I just remember that one part about Cup. That's the problem.
Yeah, in the meantime, on. I'll
Damian Pierce wishes Kyron good luck next year. Right. Fair enough.
Yeah, but Kyron is way better than Damian Pierce. Like,
he's a pass catcher from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah,
Damian Pierce is he's if fine became a running back. The word fine. It's fine. Yeah. Who is the other guy along with Rashad White that my process highlighted?
You ready? You ready for this? So I don't know if you're aware of this, but Cooper Kupp, as a freshman at Eastern Washington, had 93 catches for 1,691 yards and 21 touchdowns. That's as a freshman. And then he reeled off a 1,400, almost 1,700, and then a 1,700-yard season. So his worst season was 1,400 yards as a sophomore. Like he was pretty legit. Although I've heard him called the compiler.
Yeah, he was playing in a lower conference, if I remember right.
He was.
Those numbers really come from him.
Playing in a lower conference at a level that was like demigod. So, like he's pretty good.
Yeah.
So my write-up from Kupp is, full disclosure, Cooper Kupp has been my favorite player to watch out of all the receivers I've looked at so far. And that's not to say he's necessarily the best, but he's got, as the French would say, je ne sais quoi. Immediately, Kupp has 2 strikes against him, though, age and the Big Sky Conference, and I don't care. At 6'2", 200 pounds, Kupp's 4.52 speed isn't blazing, but he wins with quickness and strength out of the slot. Yeah, he's a slot receiver, and I don't see a scenario where he translates to much more than a guy who works inside and over the middle of the field. He doesn't have long speed to separate on deep routes, but I think he looks faster when he's carrying the ball and even occasionally breaks away after a catch. Kupp possesses great hands and uses a combination of physicality and intelligence to work his way open. He's not afraid to go into traffic to make a catch, battles for extra yards. He's got a mean stiff arm, and he sticks his nose in it when blocking too. While his route tree is slightly limited, this doesn't hamper Kupp's ability to get open, and especially against zone coverage. Depending on landing spot, he could be an ideal safety valve. He's big, he's quick, and he works his way back to relieve pressure on a quarterback in trouble. Kupp is a slot receiver, and that will be enough to dissuade a lot of people from drafting him. His small school pedigree makes him difficult to assess, but from what I've seen so far, he could be a high volume slot receiver in the right spot, and I am in. And that was my Cooper Kupp from 2017.
Neat. I like it. Jazz, I think these trades seem fine. I'm not sure you get that value for Waddle, which is what I was cautioning. Like trading him like a top 12 player, I'm fine with. But I think right now he's going to be hard to trade as a top 12 player. Adding Smith to Waddle to get a top 5 player seems good. I wouldn't
I wouldn't add Devontae Smith to Waddle.
That high, though. Waddle and Smith for a top 5 player, maybe. For a high draft pick, that's the other thing I was going to say. A high draft pick versus a top 5 player, you're talking about two different value brackets here, you know? But I don't know, some nice ideas. Scribbles, when picking in the 3rd round in rookie drafts, what position do you find yourself drafting most? I do think positionally, but that comes after evaluation of the players, to be clear. That's something I did miss in the 4th round this year. But there are tendencies and trends of where most valuable. And so if I've got nothing else, I do default to position as a second step. Outside of those top 8 players, sometimes top 15, like it was this year, I default to running back, tight end, then wide receiver. If it's super flex, I'll throw quarterback in there somewhere between above or below running back, depending on how I'm feeling. But that's the draft order once we get out of the main bulk of the elite profiles or the better profiles. So running back, tight end, wide receiver comes 3rd, and quarterback gets thrown in on top if it's a super flex. But again, don't default to positions outside of the context of the players. Like I like using trends and having a good idea of where most things come from, but you always should take into account the actual players. It's draft the best player, not draft the best position. I only highlight it because sometimes I'm like, oh, tight end in this round, and I do the same mistake.
And that's the thing, and that's the whole reason why I go through the entire project. Like I know that everyone in the chat and the people on Twitter and like they like to think that I'm doing all my rookie stuff for them. But like I don't ever get paid for this content. I would be doing this rookie evaluation, and I was doing this rookie evaluation before I ever put it out for consumption, just for my own edification and for my own advantage in leagues. And so like to Peter's point, it's not necessarily a position, it's it's talent. And so yes, the escalator versus elevator, a running back, like if they're equal, I break ties to running back because generally they hit faster. But if it's a clear talent discrepancy, like you take the best player.
Always. I honestly think the best way of playing any kind of draft is pretend there aren't positions. I love using positions as buckets that you can put players in to find trends and stuff. But ultimately, you draft as if there's one player, there's NFL roster spot, there's roster spot on your team. That's the way to think of it.
And the way I know this is different than the way you do things, but the way I do things, where I score out the players, and running backs have a different number of categories. So like the overall number, like the raw number is higher. But if you divide by the number of categories, it gives you a score that's equal. So then I can sit there and put in, okay, it's these 2 wide receivers, then this running back, then this tight, and I have the ability to like see what I think of the players in the grand scheme of things, but also within the position.
It's actually been something of a pet project I haven't got close to completing, but making my running back, tight end, quarterback, whenever I get around to having one, rookie evaluations score on the same scale. Like I want to be able to say where they fit in next to each other without having to interpret, but I can't yet. What else was I going to say about this? What position do you find yourself drafting recently? Tank make you lean, taking shots at wide receivers? No, never fall into position because of recent trends. Again, the fact that wide receivers hit in the second round a little more often than running backs this year doesn't make that more or less likely the following year. Now, looking at the average, I have done that over, say, 20 years of NFL draft history, or since 2014 of DLF ADP. I have looked at what we get right more often, and it normally fades to running back in general. In most rounds, in most areas of most rounds as well, we tend to get running back ranks better than wide receiver ranks. And then tight end, actually, strangely. Well, not strangely, actually, but there you go. But yeah, they're interesting trends. Again, I've got them posted. They're in my database. And to Zach's point, I wouldn't do this if I wasn't being paid. If no one wasn't giving me $1 on Patreon, this would not be happening. I actually think that's an interesting market divide. I think we're getting a lot of people that do the work, or maybe more work, because there's more money now, versus those of us who have just been putting out the stuff we do, like whether you would do it anyway. Not that it's better or worse, but something of an old guy, young guy thing going on right now. But no, this is just me trying to get better at Dynasty. It's all it's ever been. Like, if you guys weren't here, I'd probably still be talking to Zach about what the hell do I do about this rookie class.
Yeah.
That'd be it. It'd just be an audience of 3, me, Zach, and Russ going, Caleb, maybe? I don't know. Ken, back at running backs are the options trading.
Dynasty,
yeah. I think I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand the running back market. It's the options trading part that I'm a little iffy on, but I assume that's correct. Yeah,
risky, but have potential for big return. At least that's the
That's what the running back market does. So
yeah.
Scribbles, what would you need in a down tier for Herbert? Don't down tier top tier players. Don't down tier Herbert. Unless you're just trying to get more certain assets, more certain value for a longer period of time, just trying to avoid risk is the way I describe building. Then maybe. But Herbert to a QB. See, Herbert and Kyler are in the same tier for me. I just have Herbert further up the tier. I have a very thick tier 2 of quarterbacks, and I'm happy to get any of them. If you're looking to get out of Herbert, I would take... That's what I mean by the tier. I would take anything on top of any of them to trade, quote unquote, back to them. So you could throw anything on top of Kyler, and I'd be happy to give you Herbert. But I'm happier having Herbert than Kyler.
What's that tier? Is that goes from like Herbert, Burrow? Is Lamar in that tier, or is he above?
Lamar's in that tier. Stroud's in that. No, I only have 3 players above that tier.
Like Dak Prescott.
He would be at the bottom of it, but yeah, I've been pretty happy to roster him the same way.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that, Peter. If you can get something on top of her, because they're all really viable, really good quarterbacks.
Herbert for me is the guy in that tier. Him and Stroud are the 2 guys in that tier. I could see maybe making a case to go to that. That's why I'm a little hesitant here on trading Herbert. But right now, as it is, anything on top of Kyler would get you Herbert. Like a second round pick, sure. Give me Downs, sure. But I'm not hot to trot for it because I kind of like Herbert. I really can see him making a case. It's just the Chargers, man. They have such luck. Bad luck. But yeah. Is Isaiah Pacheco a sell at current? All running backs are sells if they have value, but Pacheco is of that type of player. I think he deserves to have value. I'm very happy to have him as I can start when we were just talking about Williams, who has a higher ceiling on a week-to-week basis. He's a top 24 running back legitimately because he's done it. But yes, you also running backs at value. If you can get value for a running back, like something back that's easier to trade to more teams more often, generically, you wouldn't have to consider the league, then make that trade. It's not about I hate running backs, even though we frame it that way. It's just where the risk is, frankly, in Dynasty. Who are some cheap tight end targets for next season in a 2-team league? I actually think we should restrict our tight end speculation, which is big for me because I'm normally overly speculating in tight ends because we just had that breakout year we're expecting at tight end. And so it's going to tighten up towards the bottom there. We're losing Zach Ertz, at least in terms of viability for starting. Hooper got last lost last year. We're losing some of that back end. We now have a very, very thick top 12 of young guys. I hate the way I said that. Who are probably going to be more viable moving forward. They're going to be breakouts and surprises as there are for every position every year. But the chances that, like last year, this offseason, we're interested in McBride a little bit, but that's hopefully just hindsight. But I like Isaiah Likely. I was trying really strong to get him on my teams. We're trying to trade into picks to get this year's rookie tight ends, which does seem like post hoc, but like we have an entire offseason worth of the Dynasty grain where I think we said that every episode. So I feel we can back that up. And if you need one, Mayer, but we are less. He was third on our list of rookie tight ends, and he's still there for me. I think he's still somewhat interesting. You might get him at a reasonable value, but I don't expect him to become, the other two in this class. And Kincaid's only had an okay rookie year for a tight end, remarkable, but an okay rookie year to start a good, okay career. It's really Sam Laporta.
The real sneaky one. And I'm kind of disappointed that he's played as well as he had the last couple of weeks because he was completely under the radar. I went on, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago on to Drinking and Talking Fantasy with Jake Trowbridge and Dustin Lunt and said Tucker Kraft is the guy you want in Green Bay.
You mentioned him in the rookie. Yeah,
you did. And he's still way down the list of tight ends, but has in the last 3 weeks scored 10.5, 15, and 10 fantasy points. Has started to produce. Yeah, and like I think he's a good player, and I think he will continue to be a good player. Now, if you're trying to get up into the top tier of tight ends, you're not going to.
Right. But I've kind of seen him.
Yeah. But like I could see him being a top 12 guy, and that's fine. If you get him right now at tight end 35 and he's top 12, that's a win.
I think Kraft's an interesting name. I think Dolchich in the same vein, just because we liked him after his rookie season. He got hurt, which doesn't say much about how he can elevate or not. And so I think I've thrown him in a few trades and added him to a few rosters again, but I'm probably going to limit my tight end speculation for the first time in years because we finally had that breakout year, which makes it a little bit harder to hit, and also people are more interested in the position right now because of the breakouts that just happened. It just
you might be able
viable, but those two names are really strong.
You might be able to get a deal on Freiermuth too. He's been abysmal.
Ooh, if I can do that.
But it's their offense has been abysmal. Right. So, he's not a bad player, but this was the fear of coming into this year with Pickett.
Don't put Kyle Pitts on your target list until the person trading him to you is grateful to get a trade for Kyle Pitts. That's what we're doing. We're doing the Evan Ingram.
Yep.
There you go. Kyler greater than Herbert. I like Kyler more because of his value, because he's been a little like Kyler was one of those guys I strongly went after this offseason. But if it's even, I'd take Herbert personally. Isn't draft capital the key with running backs? It's kind of the key with everything, but no, I would say less so with running backs, because running backs really are about opportunities, and they're also more. How do you describe it? Escalator, elevator. Running backs are very much an elevator. It's just you're there or you're not, and so it can happen literally 1 week. But draft capital is key to everything at this, because at the end of the day, the NFL gets to say, the NFL gets to make all the decisions, and the NFL drafts the players, so that it weights a lot of what happens. And so I think we'd be fool not to pay attention to it somewhat, but I do like my lower drafted guys. So Pacheco for whatever you can get. I think NFL performance outweighs draft capital a lot earlier than most think. That's why I like my undrafted free agent guys, and especially at running back. Happy holidays, homies. Puff pass kick. You too, man. Gavin Ferguson, Miami Aqua greater than Chargers powder blue. Oh, we are way far back.
Nah. Reggie Roby, nah.
Anthony Richardson on the 101, easily all day. Do it quick. Anthony Richardson, Jaden Reed, the 110, 111, or Justin Jefferson? Jefferson. And Hall?
And Reese.
And Hall? Yeah. I would have just done it for Jefferson. So, yeah. I think the golden numbered Addison jersey was the best Advent jersey. I'm going to agree because I don't have another option.
I'm with you. Brain burst. Like that was a nice. Like I was really hoping. I was on the wheel for that one, and I was really hoping.
Stefan Diggs is washed. I would take the under on an elite player being washed, especially a guy like Diggs, who's not a design. His success doesn't seem based on his physicals. It's something about the way he can play with what he's got. I think it's just been a bad end to the season for him.
But it started that way. Like there has been this weird kind of cloud over the Bills and that offense. Even in the preseason, there like Diggs was tweeting out the traditional like wide receiver who like the
carry a knife, yeah,
and so I like I'm not there. I don't know what's going on. I can't speculate it, but there's a lot wrong with that offense, and I don't think that it's because the aliens came down and stole Diggs's ability. Like I don't think that's it.
I mean, sometimes it just evacuates players. I would bet against Diggs being bad just until I'm proven wrong. KJ Osborne is best ball only deeply. Yes, I would agree. If MH Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm learning this class, and Nabas were both top 15 in the NFL draft, they are wide receiver 1 and 2. Yes, 1 and 2. I would.
Well, no, he's saying in Dynasty, like overall. I think you're probably looking at wide receiver for me, probably wide receiver 4 and 6 or 7.
See, I am much less likely to put wide receivers that are rookies anywhere near my top 12 in Dynasty, and I'm yet to do my work.
I don't necessarily mean for me, but like that's where they will be.
What I was going to say is the emphasis and hype around Harrison Jr. is good enough that I think we could probably start placing him in the top 12 realistically, just after the draft, because there's like CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase vibes around Harrison, like almost can't miss. I want to be a little more hesitant than most on that. Like I only want hits when I do that. And so far I've been okay. Nabas, he looks like a great profile. He didn't stand out the way Harrison Jr. is at just a brief scan. But again, I haven't done much work. So
I have put them on my for Peter list. So since 2017, CeeDee Lamb 1, Jefferson 2, Harrison 3, AJ Brown 4, Rondell Moore and Jamar Chase 5, 6, Corey Davis, DJ Moore, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Malik Neighbors. And they're all like tied. Like JSN, Addison, JSN, and Neighbors all got the same score, and then Cooper Kupp. So like that's my list. Nice job.
It's a pretty Corey good Davis list. There. I'll give you that.
And Rondell Moore. Nice job with those two. But like out of the top 10, like Malik Neighbors and Harrison are in that top 10 of the top grades that I've given out on film.
Nice.
Xavier Worthy's in there too. It's like Cooper Kupp, Devontae Smith, Xavier Worthy. So like I like this group.
Amon-Ra St. Brown was pretty high up. I haven't looked at the list in a while. Rebuild with Trash and Stroud. Levis, Pickett, Hall, Roshan, Singletary, Pittman, Godwin, Ayuk, Sutton. You're trading for value a lot. Quentin Johnson is now valueless, by the way. Elijah Moore, valueless. Ingram's got some value. Has the 102 to the 105. That's pretty good. 109, 111, 112. What should I do? Players, should I draft? Players, should I draft? Draft the best player. I'm very far away from having ranks, but we've already gone over kind of how to play drafts in general, especially rookie drafts. All of that applies to that part of the question. Outside of that, yeah, all of this is tradable. The only player I would probably keep Ingram at this point. He's probably always going to be more valuable than you're going to get in trade. And Pittman too. Maybe Godwin. The rest, because Ayuk's got a lot more hype behind him. It's easier to find a guy who loves Ayuk. But the rest are, can I add one of my 9, the 1-9, the 1-11, the 1-12 to get a future draft pick and something for my roster? Stroud. Okay, let me say this again. Stroud, Hall are strong keeps. You're just keeping those two players. Everything else is up for debate. I think you probably have to keep Pittman and Ayuk based on value, because I don't think you're going to get what you need. And you have enough here to have a whole new team by next season if you can move some stuff around. And competitive team with value, everything that you want. If you keep Hall, keep Stroud, stay open on Pittman, but probably keep him, and just work the value, try and get usable players and 24 picks. Try and pair some of these players with those later picks, and you don't need any more. Maybe try and get the 101, but there's very little you can do there. But try and get more future picks while adding good players to your roster. That would be the generic way I'm seeing it. Zach, I'm kind of floundering here.
No,
Anything more specific?
I am with you on that. Where having the 102, 103, 104, and 105. So having those 4 picks is going to be fantastic for you, right? All of a sudden, you've got a quarterback to go with Stroud. So now you've got 2 quarterbacks and you have 2 other starting quarterbacks, even if they're not great. Like maybe Levis decides to be a middle of the road quarterback. I don't think Pickett ever is, but they do start, so you can flex them in if you need to during bye weeks or that sort of thing. I'm with you. You keep Hall, and then figure out what you're going to do with the rest of this team. But you've got the ability to take a quarterback and then 3 wide receivers, bang, 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 and 3 top-end wide receivers at the top of this draft. And then I think, Peter, you're exactly right, where you start taking that 109, the 111, the 112, and seeing if you can pair with a player and get back up into, 106, 107, into that range, and just take the top of this draft class, which I think is a really good place to be, and you can almost completely restart this team based on what you have now.
Good.
Yeah.
This time, next season, you should be competitive. I really think you can get there. And again, keep Stroud, keep Hall, probably keep Ingram. It's hard to find a usable tight end, guys. And everything else, you can rebuild the team with the 2 to the 5. And you want 24 and even 25 picks in return. That's how far out your pick need is, 25, even on a rebuilding team, because you just need to have more eggs and more future baskets. That's cool. But I would strongly consider the 109 with Ayuk. How high up the wide receiver ranks can I move? Can I get a CeeDee Lamb? Probably not. He's been great this season. How about Jalen Waddle? If I could get Ayuk and the 109 for Waddle, just tearing up those wide receivers, planning to have Harrison, probably a running back maybe, and another elite quarterback, assuming this is a super flex. By the time next season starts, assuming you do pretty decent with your draft picks, play the waiver wire, this team could easily be top 5, top 3 in the league if he goes right. But yeah, everyone else is what can I package to move up the wide receiver ranks ahead to add to Pittman, to add to Godwin because he's older, so you're not going to get great offers, and make good picks with those first 5 picks and look for depth adds and future picks. I think you've entirely rebuilt I think at this point, you're just trying to execute what you need to execute. Really. With that many first picks and this many... I was going to say elite. You have Stroud and Hall. They're elite. I think Pittman's solid. I think Godwin's solid. I think Ayuk's solid. I think Ingram's, again, solid at that position. And everything else is depth. It's not worth much. But that should get you there by the next season easily. Outside of that, I can't think specifics right now. Sorry. They're both going higher than 10. That's unfortunately the effect that I'm concerned about here. Scribbles, Waddle and Henry for St. Brown will be my initial offer. St. Brown and Waddle are kind of in the same tier for me, but I prefer St. Brown over Waddle, so I guess adding a Henry at this point in his career.
Yeah. I definitely don't mind that, Jazz. Like, I think that's a good move.
Russ, I already donated to Coats for Kids. They look good. Everyone donate to Coats for Kids. Not because I said so, but because
it's the fantasycares.org/Coats for Kids, or maybe it's just a regular / I don't know. It's something.
Yes, sir. Just Google it. Pre-March 17th release of Russ equals $75 million. Oh, this is a contract that Russ was talking about. It's by both Wilson and Stidman season. I don't like that. Garrett Wilson, maybe? Peyton with QB he likes is fire, and Russ isn't washed. He's going to be in another team. Yeah. I don't know. He's going to ever be great again. What's our guy's confidence? 1-10 for 60-year-old Rodgers coming off of an Achilles tear and the worst season of his career, even playing one snap, worst season of his career, to come back to form and avoid making Garrett Wilson and the new DJ Moore. 1-10. Is Rodgers going to play? I don't know with that guy. I expect he's going to play again. He's probably going to be good still. Garrett Wilson is excellent. So I'd say 7-8. What the hell? Why not?
Yeah.
That's all based on if he plays, to be fair. That's the real question.
They've got to do something. So even if he doesn't come back and play, they're going to put something there that's not Zach Wilson, which will be better for Garrett Wilson.
Gavin, I would say you've been correct for their rookie seasons. Gibbs has been better in fantasy than Bijan this year. I would not rank it that way. I think the ceiling of Bijan is higher than the ceiling of Gibbs. And it's kind of the way I played that position. That was me, Zach. Okay. You guys were all pretty down. On who? On Gibbs? Hell no.
No. On Zeke.
Oh, yeah, we were pretty low. I was like, I want a different trade. Something to the effect. Yeah, definitely got that one wrong for you, Gavin.
I've got the clip of that, Gavin. I'll because I was already going to drop it in the chat with Russ and
no, solid call. Is it fair to compare CMC to Marshall Falk? I don't think I'm qualified. I wasn't around or paying attention with I know what his stats were, and historically I've looked at his points. But CMC, in my era of playing, is just that guy. He's just that dude. There's been very few to hit that tip. If that's what Falk was to you, if that's what you mean, sure. Historical patterns are also rough, always rough, especially with the running back position. It seemed more change than most between there and here. Zach might be the better one. He probably an NFL fan by then.
I was in junior high when Marshall Falk came into the league, so I wasn't doing much NFL analysis at that point. But
the only football I cared about at that point was all kicking kind. So to be fair, I think you knew more than me.
But yeah, but in terms of Marshall Falk carried the ball 250 plus times a year and also had 100 receptions. So it was a little different than CMC, but not much. So yes, but Falk still.
He was also doing it in an era where it was less likely. Yeah.
So
probably greater.
Yeah, similar, but and he also played for 11 years, something like that. So
from a fantasy perspective, most leagues would have been non-PPR.
Standard,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it all balances out. Where's your top 10 Dynasty tight ends? Or who are your top 10 Dynasty tight ends? Also, is Kelsey a buy?
Buy is a very strong word.
I mean, within reason, yeah. People hate age, and I don't, especially at the tight end position. And also all the social media stuff going on.
Yeah, which whatever.
I'm trying to sign into my own ranks, and it's proving difficult. I don't know what to do.
I made a joke.
I haven't
because somebody came out and was like serious that Taylor Swift had some effect on Travis Kelce and the Chiefs, and they cited like when they started and what the record was, and which they didn't have the actual dates right, so it wasn't actually what. But anyway, they made this like point, and so I came on as a joke, and I was like, well, yeah, she landed in Maine and then flew out of Bangor to go to Europe on tour, and we immediately got a storm and flooding, and the power got knocked out, and so like it's definitely. And I got the very first time I've ever had this happen on Twitter. I had death wished upon me by multiple Swifties for making this joke, and I was like, I'm not like that's not really a thing. Travis Kelce's fine. I wish them well. I'm not spending Travis Kelce prices to acquire Travis Kelce, but if you can get him, like Peter said, the age doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people. But there is going to be a year where he just isn't anymore. Like that's just how this happens.
That's how time works.
Yeah.
Eventually, players stop playing and other players play. All right, I'm into DLF. Yeah, let's do this. By position, tight end. My ranks are live on DLF. I haven't fully gone through them yet. And I'm going to update my Patreon sheet when I do. Right now, wow. I didn't know I'd done that. Sam Laporta at 1, followed by Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Hawkinson, McBride. Then Pitts, which I hate. Goddard, Kincaid, Faramuth, Evan Ingram, and Jake Ferguson. Those are my top 12. There you go. I got some things I already disagree with in that, but that's roughly somewhere in there. Is the Sam Hill ride dead? I don't think it's completely dead. We'll get a Minshew season out of him, but yeah, I think the fun of hoping he becomes one of those Dak Prescott's is probably dead.
Yeah, or you could do that too.
Caleb
it depends on what you think.
Nabber's at 103.
It depends on what you think the difference between Caleb Williams and May or Caleb Williams and Daniels is, and the difference between Harrison and Neighbors.
Very true. I really can't.
But yeah,
kind of thing yet. Good. Right now, from the little I know, I would take Harrison, but it means nothing. Henderson, Ohio State is a rookie running back 1 as of now.
I don't think that's consensus, but I don't think there is a consensus. I've seen 5 different guys be thrown out as a running back 1. I have watched exactly 0 running back, so I don't have an opinion on that yet.
I love David with Gibbs.
Yeah,
David
Montgomery,
is taking all those hard hits on first down. Yeah, I mean, that offense loves to run with a 1 and 2 as well. It also helped Big Ben throw the ball 600 times. Yeah, and now he's doing it in San Francisco. Like, CMC is not like a system running back or whatnot. He's just very good. I think that's what we're talking about. Oh, you're just talking about Juju. Screw you. Puka is proof. Cup is a system wide receiver. Genji. I disagree. Cup is a system. This is a fun conversation, but I'm going to leave it. Gibbs' balance is elite. Okay, that's a conversation. 14-team, 1 QB, non-tight end premium. Just acquired Andrews and have McBride. I was offered the 106 for McBride. Oh, yeah, 106 for McBride. I would do that. or the 102 for Bride and my 107. I'd rather have the 102, so I would do that. I do either, but I prefer to have the 102. I also have the 104 and would love to jump up to the top 3. Yeah, that's exactly my thinking as well.
Yeah. And it doesn't help you at all to have 2 tight ends and a non-premium.
I know. Would you make one of these deals or hold McBride? I love having McBride, but you're getting a solid offer for a player, and it's going to improve your team or the value on your team. Yeah, it's tough, but
We
sometimes
still
you just
think
cash
Andrews.
out.
We still think Andrews is better than McBride, too.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even though currently the hype train is McBride is great. I've seen people like Trey McBride, tight end 1, whatever. Like he's good.
He might be as good as Andrews for as long as Andrews will be, which is great. But Andrews is, we're on the same page. If I made that kind of deal for the 102, I could get Nabbers at 102, possibly Bowers at the 104 if I wanted to reload a younger tight end. Solid plan. Yeah, get the 102. Yeah, I think it's a great trade.
Yes.
Jazz also likes Tucker Craft. The 110 and Carr for Bryce Young. Superflex. I actually kind of like this. I think it's a way of squirreling away some value in like their nuts. Like doesn't seem to be there, but I think Young is young, high drafted, and I think he's got more to show than he was able to do this year. And he only needs to do it a little bit next year, and instantly this is a great value for him. So I would take that ride with Young. Yeah,
I did that.
And Carr we know what Carr can be. And he's fine. I mean, don't undervalue solid points at the tight end quarterback position in Superflex, but we're aiming for a little bit more. Yeah. Tua, don't know what that means. Ferguson or Cousins, Purdy, Goff, don't know what that means. Andrews. UOO21? You got any idea? I think it's Tua, Ferguson, or Cousins, Purdy, Goff. I don't know what this means.
I don't know what the UOO26 is.
I'm assuming they're using an emoji and it's not translating onto art.
Tua Ferguson or Cousins, Purdy, Goff.
That's a lot of quarterbacks on the other side. Sorry, Dynasty Sponge. I'm not sure.
Maybe it's an and, like an ampersand.
Ampersand? Tua and Ferguson or Cousins, Purdy, Goff, and Andrews? Just the Andrews side, right?
Like one of the like Cousins or Purdy or Goff and Andrew. Like that's the only thing that I can think. Like one of those quarterbacks.
Andrews. Be an Andrews or a second tier quarter, but good. Tua's in that.
I think I'd rather have Tua than even with the positional advantage of Andrews. I think Tua is a positional advantage over those guys.
I lean Andrews, but I don't think you're wrong, if that makes sense. Like I just feel like Andrews is a more sure positional advantage, whereas I'm not sure the difference between Tua and whichever one, like Cousins, is as sure as the difference between Ferguson, who I like a lot, by the way. I just put him in my top 12, and Andrews. Like I think that's just a little more sure. Lineup is Mahomes, Rajon Swift, Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins, Gibson, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, Waddle, Cooper, JSN, Jameson, McBride, Andrews, and Butker. Good. I like it. Yeah. If you had to put a reasonable amount of money on it, where would you say Russ goes next?
To bed. Oh, different Russ.
Yeah.
I mean, Minnesota's a good. That's a good guess.
Is that stupid?
What did you say?
Browns? Would they be that stupid to try it again?
They can't. I don't think they can because that's all guaranteed money for Watson. Like that whole contract was guaranteed.
Washington? I would hate to see it, but maybe Washington. If I had to put money on it, I'd take a stab at
I don't
Washington.
know.
There's a team that makes some questionable decisions. Could feel like it's just a quarterback away, even though it's probably a little bit more than that away. How disappointed them. They're looking for a reason to get everyone excited.
Back to Seattle.
There you go. If you had to put money on it, I like that. CMC, it could be $1 to be fair. CMC is to Marshall Faulk as Purdy is to Warner. Debo equals Bruce Ayuk equals Holtz. There's only one George Kittle. I like the last bit.
So he's comparing him to the greatest show on turf.
Yeah.
Which was the second greatest show that year. Just saying. I mean, not that I'm a Patriots fan or anything, but
CMC season is comparable to LaDainian Tomlinson. Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, LT was the other one of those, and like Christian McCaffrey's like 100 points ahead of the next running back in PBR.
Well,
like, it's incredible.
Thing for era takes place, but yeah. Also, there's too much smoke that Kelsey is retiring. I think it's just noise. I really do, but it's going to be his personal decision, so everyone else is literally just guessing. Maybe he's made up his mind, but I would doubt it. Like, it's probably a pretty difficult decision to come to. Sell, Kelsey. Yeah, for what? Also, Henderson is playing in the bowl game and is still considered returning to OSU.
I mean, yeah, but they've got another 2 weeks to declare, so it's not like nothing happens until I think it's the 15th of January. So
well, no, before the rookie draft. That's really good.
Yeah,
before the NFL draft.
And if he doesn't declare, whatever, the running back class is not great anyway. And
it isn't what's hyping this class, put it that way. The first guy to say anything here didn't know when the football games are scheduled. That's some credibility. Okay. I think that was me, and I don't think I mentioned when the games were scheduled.
No, I think it was Russ missed taking Keenan Allen out because there was a Saturday game.
Oh, right.
In his defense, he's got a lot going on right now.
And also, he's probably going to win that league.
Yeah, he definitely is.
So, Gazerk traded Diggs for Waddle right before it got ugly. Nice. I mean, Waddle's in that tier, though. That's a pretty cool trade. Then traded Kittle for Andrews once I was out of the running.
Nice. Yeah, I'd rather have Waddle and Andrews than Kittle and Diggs. That's a win.
Yeah, in general. So sending McBride in the 107th to 102 is better than McBride. It's of a kind. It's where your risk tolerance is. You're giving more, but I think you're getting a significantly better asset. Yeah. And I don't know this draft class a lot, but just based on precedent history where the tiers often come, I can't see the 102 being not of a different ilk to the 107.
You're either getting the QB one or the wide receiver one.
Like it's pretty significant. Again, you got to hit your picks, which is a risk. But the 102 is better than 106 straight. I know more shots at the draft is its own compensation, but for me, I always go for that upside, and the 102 has it. Especially in rookie drafts, that's where I'm gonna. Maybe I miss and I lose, and it was a bad trade because of it. But that's where I'm gonna take my risk. Like, feels pretty good. Dynasty-wise. Pittsburgh, another spot for Russ, maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
It would be an improvement for them, so I wouldn't be against it. Yeah.
I mean, right now, I don't know what Pittsburgh's got for. Of course, the cap is fake, but I think they're 24th in cap space right now. For
the reason I was thinking Washington, though, is I think Russ is going to be, when he goes to another team, it's going to be a team. I don't think he's going to be able to charge or hold out for a good spot or a good contract. I think he's going to need to find somewhere willing. So Washington, Pittsburgh, similar kind of feels. I can see that. I don't know much about the cap situations. I don't study it, but New England. There was a time I think Bill Belichick would have been really happy to try out Russell Wilson. James Tucker for semi QB needing teams. Well, they take Harrison over QBs. You mean in the rookie draft? Again, same rule applies for me. You're going to draft the player that's better. If you're talking about the NFL, that ultimately comes down to whether one GM feels like being a cowboy or not. I don't think they should. I think they should take as many shots at quarterback as possible, always until they find one. In general, start 9 Superflex, start 11 Superflex. Any difference? Yes. Let's see, 9 to 11. That's 2, 4, 6. That's a lot of extra quarterbacks being started, and it just increases the value of the position. Yeah, that's like adding teams. You know, it's the difference between a 8-team league and almost a 12-team league between 9 and 11.
Well, and you're also starting 36 more position players.
That's what I mean. It pressures from the position in a similar way from a different angle. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
And so it does affect things. I don't think it's quite that direct, but yeah. As I suggested, Kevin, excellent profile picture. Washington is live for the top 3 pick and basically a lock for top 5. So it seems like that's where they will get. That's a fair point.
Might,
probably, yeah, especially in this draft class, from what I understand of it. Frustrated Flacco kicked me out of the players. I wouldn't be frustrated. I mean, don't get me wrong, James. It's always frustrating to be kicked out of the playoffs, but at least it was for a Flacco resurgence. At least that's kind of fun, instead of like being stupid like me and starting the wrong player or going out to an injury, which would be worse because someone got hurt. How do we get here? One league is whack, and we are adding a defense in draft. What is your favorite Dynasty defense? Don't actually play in defense. Leagues. And they're also not very consistent year to year. I did do a look at them once very early on about how consistent defensive ranks and scoring was from year to year using Fantasy Outsiders. I also did with O-line ranks. That was the article I wrote. And the answer is not very. It's hard to think a defense keeps it up or keeps being terrible. But like the top 3 and the bottom 3 are more consistent the very next year to at least be in the top 5 or the bottom 5. But that's about as good as it gets, like 1 year prediction. And I don't have rank. Like, I would love to speculate, but I literally haven't played with the defense. Not because it's bad. I actually like playing with the DST, but my leagues just don't carry it. So like I have no feeling sense of the market right now or how good each defense is. Sorry. I would say Fantasy Outsiders is where I go to kind of explore that stuff when I am looking. That's where I got those ranks from. Gazuk, it's 1Q. Well, that was before they lost all their content creators because they decided to sell them out or what. So it might be different now. But defensive rankings, my go-to would be 4 for 4 right now, actually, which are listed on my prediction sheet. Gazuk, it's 1 QB, so the top end is much tighter as well. Yeah. 107 could be rough compared to 102, especially in a 1 QB. The 102 should be, worlds apart from the 107. Yeah. Good point. Thanks for bringing it up. Fantasy Nerd Boy. That's an awesome one. And another great profile picture. Why do mine all suck? Jaden Daniels is a Patriot. Jaden Daniels, is he a rookie?
He's
that's why I don't know who he is. Yeah. Okay, well, good luck. I hope so. I hope to see New England do some more interesting stuff. It's kind of sad, but New England not being much of a threat. Buy A-Chain or Waddle in off-season with extra draft capital. It depends what you mean by extra. It depends what the trade is, all those caveats. I'm more interested in Waddle in Dynasty than A-Chain, but A-Chain is really, like, I don't know what to do with him yet. I really don't. I don't know where to put him in my ranks. I don't know where to put him in values. I don't know
efficient. Like, that was the thing.
It can't keep up, but at the same time, even if it comes down just to half what he was doing, he's still going to be real good. But there's no reason to think he couldn't come down 75%. It's very hard to find a historical comparison for that. And that's why I keep thinking David Johnson, like the potential is so good. And even if it's not quite as good, it's still going to be pretty good. And then he gets hit by injury after injury after injury. And then disappointing year, and then an injury. I love that guy too. The man himself. He's one of the few players I actually followed and checked up on. Like he genuinely seemed like an awesome human being. And he and his fiance at the time, when he was in his big search, were having a great time touring Europe in that off season. I got way too invested in that story. I hope he's doing well. Frank N. This is my weekly speaking. I can't say that name.
Igbuka. Emeka Igbuka.
Mbuka.
Yep.
To the Chargers into existence. Well, I hope you get what you want. I really do. I hope the Chargers can put in a better show next year. I really do, and more good players would help that. Thanks, boys. Great stuff as always. Great. It's relative, but we try our best, and we enjoy being here. So thanks very much, man. James Tucker, is Kyler going to be on a new team? I think Arizona, I would call them fools too. Like, I think Kyler is a really significantly good quarterback, and when you find those, you just try and find a way to work with it.
But they have the 2 overall.
Yeah. Like, nah, I kind of don't believe that. Like Hurts wasn't gonna make it because they had draft capital. That's what my mind goes to. Like, I think they'd be forced to take a risk, even on a top 5 quarterback in the NFL draft. Like, just. Yeah, you know you've got a pretty good guy there, and they're hard to find in that position. I mean, take a quarterback and then let them fight it out. 2 really good quarterbacks, that could be great for them too. Like I say, I really think quarterback should be a heavy investment for NFL franchises, throwing money and picks at them like no business. Try and get it sorted out. Kevin, I think I said Kevin earlier, by the way, when it's very clearly not spelt that way. Apologies. Do you play in many Dynasty best ball leagues? I do, and I actually increasingly prefer the format the older I get. I think it's quite enjoyable as far as adding value to players. Yes, for a whole bunch of reasons, I think it's an awesome format. It's not the only fun way to play Dynasty, or the only fun to be had, but there are a lot of added benefits and added fun to best ball leagues. If only the scoring on a week-to-week basis is so much higher, and you don't make bad start-sit decisions. And when Tutu was going off, you were getting the benefit of that. But then when he goes down for NFL decisions, you really couldn't trade him away, but you made a good decision having him on your roster.
Kevin says it's Kevin.
Oh, okay. I apologize, Kevin. Again, second time. I love best ball for a whole bunch of reasons, especially when you get into the players. I think it reduces variance. Players who just are good at acquiring that depth maybe have a little bit of advantage too, because then when you really good players aren't paying off, your depth makes up for it sometimes. I think especially it leans into me playing trends and over time and leaning on positional patterns like that. I think it helps me out that way as well. But it's certainly not the only way to have fun. But it's been great for quarterbacks. Let's face it, when injuries happen, it's always going to help out. James Tucker, will second round picks have high value this year, either for trading or picking? I'm a big fan of seconds and selling my first, so need some sleepers. Not quite Puka, but will there be value? There's always value in the second round. The problem is you never know exactly where it is. We make our best guesses, but then that's our ranks. There's always value in the second round. I'll say that to start with. I haven't looked at hit rates like I do. I think the process is working for expecting what's coming in terms of breakouts by looking at what's happened on a trend basis. I think it really predicted the tight end blow up this year, but it also predicted a running back blow up for the last 2 years, and that hasn't happened yet. And it doesn't look like this draft class is going to bring it about. And so, there's still some work to do. But I haven't broken it down, but I think we should still expect a few wide receivers hitting slightly deeper down the draft capital ladder to do more, because it hasn't been happening as much as it has done in the last 5-year cycle. So like the last 3 years versus the last 5 years before that. But I also feel like the wide receiver position is so thick right now, and Puka does a lot to regress that trend back towards normal. That I think it's going to be more running backs, best guess. But that's where you're going to be in the second round, looking at running backs more likely than not. But again, I'm yet to do my work or even look at this draft class in depth. In general, and that's what I mean by I will take my risk in the rookie draft. In general, Rookie drafts aren't where I look to trade back to add more options. I want to trade up to have fewer options. I want to hit on my most certain, my highest ranked players more often and trade up to get that opportunity. Now, in a regular draft, that process makes a lot more consistent sense for me in terms of startups and stuff. But in rookie drafts, trading back, unless you're trading back years to add more value on a building team, that's a little more viable. But in general, while I like quote unquote seconds, especially if you can pile them up in some leagues because people like trading them, like if you've got Zach in your league, outside of being able to do it a rate that would be hard to consistently do in every league, generally I like trading up in rookie drafts. That's kind of where I'm at. Startup drafts the exact opposite. That's what I'm trying to say. Zach, what do you think? Is trading back into the second for multiple seconds instead of, first round picks or whatever? Is that a good idea this year particularly or in general?
I'd rather have first than seconds. If that's what you're like, I know it's selling my first to get into the seconds. I use my seconds, and I know we've talked about this on this show before, to buy on credit. So normally I won't have a second. So if we're going into the 24 draft, I won't have my 24 second, but I'll have my 25 second. And we'll be in the second round, and there'll be a player that's available that I want. And I will turn to whoever's on the clock, and I will say, I will give you my 24 third round pick and my 25 second. And they say,
buying on credit, right?
Yeah, they say, a second and a third for a second. That's great. Yes. And so then I end up getting the player that I want, but I don't actively stack up second round picks.
I'm actually more likely to stack up thirds and fourths because one, just more shots. The deeper you go, the more shots you need to have any consistency in hitting value. But also, Dynasty players, the content, from reading the content, we hate third and fourth round picks. It's all about trading for multiple seconds. Whereas fourths especially just fly off for nothing. And because they're almost worthless unless you have 12 of them. And then anyone that's good in that round, suddenly you land. So, yeah. Kevin, I apologize for a second time. Sorry about that. Frank N. Keon Coleman just declared, happy days. We're going to see a lot more declarations over the next few weeks. Again, I'm not saying anyone will or won't, but, there's usually the small period where everyone's like, they haven't declared yet. And there is a chance, but
I bet we see
every analysts are doing a pretty good job.
I bet we see most everyone declare who's going to within the next 18 days.
Something
it's just
like
a guess.
Just a guess.
Yeah.
Zach's going to have fun with Coleman's film. Have you watched any of him yet?
I have watched all of Coleman that I'm going to watch. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's currently 7 out of 8 or 6 out of 7 that I've watched.
Well, he's ahead of good or bad.
He's ahead of Ibuka. Oh, he's not bad. I mean, he's not a bad, but I'm worried he's a trap. I mean, he does a lot of the physical separation, bully, box out, JJ Arcega-Whiteside sort of thing. He's pretty good against zone, not so good at separating against man, but is good at separating vertically. So he's an interesting. I think he probably ends up, from what I hear, will be drafted in the first round. So you guys can.
I heard the name JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I don't need to hear it.
I would say you guys can all step on that landmine.
Avoiding. Yeah. Got it. Russ in New England ain't bad, or Atlanta.
No, Coleman's a lot better, a lot more versatile than Arcega-Whiteside, but
I mean, you'd almost have to be.
Yeah.
Diggs to Green Bay. I hope to see good Stephon Diggs again, and I expect to, honestly. I don't know if he's going to have to see a team move to do that, but I think he's still talented, put it that way. James Tucker, my one league has no trade deadline. I enjoy leagues with no trade deadline. And I have Tyreek and Diggs, not in the playoffs. You should definitely be sending offers then. Should I start a bidding war? If possible, sure, make them pay more. Diggs isn't going to tempt them too much because of the way it's gone this season, but Tyreek should seriously gain some interest off playoff teams or whoever's left in your players this year. Yeah. And yes, you should absolutely try and take advantage of that.
Just throw
and
that
it's
out.
Not taking advantage. That's how you offer a path for bad teams to get better and good teams to try to win. Like that's how it should be, as far as I'm concerned.
Throw that out in the
Everyone should be
league
trying to
chat. Be
move.
like, receivers are available.
Who wants to win this week?
Yep.
That's the way we start. If Coleman so good, he didn't produce much, just like Benson. Just like
it's like the money ball of Billy Bean. If he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? That's it.
All right, good to know. Ron T, good evening, fellas. Need to start three. Start six question. I'll try my best. For my championship week, we better try our best. Nico, Jaden, Zeke, Garrett Wilson, Jacoby, Ty Chandler. What do you guys think? I think I need to open my projection sheet. I think it's not going to be Mayer, so his volume's really dropped off. Right?
Is it weird that I think Zeke is probably the one, like, real easy one?
Is it weird that I think Ty Chandler's going to compete? It can't be Nico.
It could be
without Stroud. Really, it's opening. Okay, I'm working on it. And then I have to learn to spell, which isn't easy for me. Jaden Reed. Who else was it?
Chandler, Garrett Wilson, Jaden Reed, Zeke Elliott, Nico Collins, Jacoby Myers. And I say Garrett Wilson, he's in there too.
I always spell Jacoby's name every time.
Like, to me, Elliott's one of the starters.
Yeah.
I don't even. He's leading the Patriots in receptions this year.
It's a weird year. Let's just leading the Patriots in receptions. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's Wilson. Oh, wait, I didn't put Ty Chandler in there. Yeah, it's Wilson, Elliott, and Collins. Wow. Did I miss anyone? Nope. I've got it as Garrett Wilson, Nico Collins, and Ezekiel Elliott. 3 starters from that list. I just do what the projections tell me. Kevin, Diggs is already in Green Bay. His name is Jaden Reed. Oh, no. Jaden Reed's been doing pretty good. I don't know if that's insulting who Diggs is or just really high on Jaden Reed. I don't know which way you're going with that. I think Reed's solid. He's been doing really well this year. I named him as a sleeper in this draft class, along with Tank Dell and the third guy, I think, was... I'd like to say it was Downs, but I think it's A.T. Perry at the time.
You were big on Downs. I don't think you had Downs as a sleeper. I think he was like you were full.
I think I had him above that line, yeah.
Which is a good.
But Diggs has been at least well outside. What Diggs has done is well outside the range of outcomes of Reed. I think, even if Reed does slightly better than I expect. I don't think Green Bay has a true wide receiver one right now. James Tucker, does Nico Collins support maybe year 3 wide receiver breakouts with a good quarterback? Well, that's what he is. That's what he's just done. As opposed to only year 1 or else. You mean, is this it? The later into a career you break out, the less expectation we had moving forward. But we've had plenty of year 3 wide receivers who go on to do good things. And there's just a lower expectation for the ceiling of it, especially because you've got other drafts, you've got other players coming up. Tank Dell has broken out year 1 with Nico Collins, so that probably tells you already it's got a lot more to do with CJ Stroud than just. But Nico has done fantastic with the opportunity, and I think he's solid. Think Cortland Sutton. Like, I can't fault him for being a pretty decent player, a pretty complex position, and a pretty tough landscape in the NFL. Do that, but I don't think the upside is what Tyreek has done and what Stephon Diggs has done for Amon-Ra or CeeDee Lamb. Like, not that he couldn't have a year like that because it's reality, and CJ Stroud's pretty good. But I think he's going to be usable, viable, moving forward. But we have lower expectations for later breakouts in general. Yeah. Kevin, the Keon Coleman description sounds like Quentin Johnson. Oh, another rough comparison. It is not looking good for Coleman.
I mean, but that's so, Kevin, that it's an archetype that I try to avoid. And it was the same thing. Like, I don't have any Drake London, and it's not that Drake London is bad. It's not that Quentin Johnson is bad. It's not that N'Keal Harry was bad. But that archetype is one that I really kind of try to avoid. I think you're going to see some people get really excited about Keon Coleman because he has some plays where you're like, holy cow, how'd he do that? Like, there's a play where, and I can't remember which game it was in. It was either the Syracuse game from this past year or the Wake Forest game where Coleman ran a route kind of across the middle up the seam, and the quarterback overthrew him by about 3.5 feet. And Coleman was like, nah, I'll go get that. And he caught it. And you're going to see a lot of people say, well, that's an NFL catch. And yes, it is an NFL catch. But it is also the reason why I watch between 8 and 12 games or 8 and 14 games is because I want to see what they do game to game consistently, whether it's good or bad over the course of their career. So I start at the beginning and I'll watch a few games from their freshman year and then their sophomore year, and then hopefully just the junior year, because most of the elite players leave after 3 years because they're elite players and they can go get paid. And I can watch the progression, but I can also watch the consistency. And so, like, seeing that play is great, but it doesn't hold any more weight than one play where he like went out and blocked on the end. Like, it's just a one plus, and he did this. And now if he does that every game and he does that 2 or 3 times a game, now we got something. But
no problem, Ron T. Thanks for checking it out. James Tucker, Garrett Wilson, James Cook, and a late 25 first for Tyreek Hill, ETN, and a 24 mid first. Which side are you taking? Again, without context, I don't know if you're building, competing, if it's a 1 QB, maybe. But Garrett Wilson, James Cook. I think I want the Wilson side. 25 first versus a 24 first. I mean,
I'd rather have a 24 first.
ETN and Cook are remarkably similar to me, which is strange. I would have thought ETN won it in a landslide, but that's pretty.
I'd rather have the Hill ETN than the 24 first.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Like the player that I want in this deal is Garrett Wilson.
Is Wilson.
But I prefer ETN to Cook and the 24 first to the 25 first.
I prefer ETN to Cook. That's for, and obviously 24 versus 25 is better. Yeah. But the difference between Wilson and Hill in Dynasty isn't that significant to you?
I mean, it's fine, but like the other 2 pieces make up that difference. Yeah. I think
that's a fair answer. I was leaning that the value of the ages for Wilson adds up to more than the difference for ETN and Cook. But honestly, I can't argue with it. It's
like I don't mind. Like I don't mind going and getting Garrett Wilson, like trying to trade Tyreek Hill to get Garrett Wilson, adding something to Tyreek Hill. But I like that deal. I think you lose enough on the other 2 pieces that it's like I don't want to make that deal.
Fair enough. I think that's fair. Yeah. All right. Diggs was a popular rookie prospect comp for Reed, is all that it was. Okay, that's fine. That's great for Jaden Reed. Like, that's a strong compliment for Mr. Reed. I mean, I hope he lives up to it, but I mean, I would be astonished. Diggs. James Tucker, for that archetype, what is the most recent that actually hit? N'Keal, Harry, Quentin Johnson type. Was Higgins
was kind of that? Like, he was in that, like, a similar ish. I guess Mike Williams quasi.
I was going to say, from what you're describing, Harry and also Higgins wouldn't have been in that category for me because I'm categorizing differently.
Oh, they were.
Mike Williams is the one that stands out in my head as far as hits go.
But to me, N'Keal Harry was a lot more similar to Quentin Johnston because, like Quentin Johnston, they try to get him work close to the line of scrimmage or a jump ball, and that's what N'Keal Harry was really not at his best as a jump ball receiver. He was at his best on like a 5-yard slant out of the slot, and then
that's kind of what I saw him as.
Yeah.
Which, I'm just hypothesizing based on his age. So, I mean, what do I know? Yeah, there's not many. James Tucker, in a bad running back class, will a running back go? Yes, a running back will probably go top 6. In a super flex, maybe not, if we're smart about it. But that's what I mean by Bishop Sankey year. Like,
I don't think
we're thirsty for running backs. If there's a decent prospect and a good landing spot, we're desperate. Someone's going to start going, you'll be a fool not to take a running back. Look at the hit rate.
There won't
whether
be,
it should be or not is different.
There won't be one in mine. I don't believe.
Okay.
I don't think that there's a running back in this class that can get into the into where, I mean, they'd have to be above Romo Dunze to get up in there, and I don't think there's a running back in this class that can do that.
Well,
we'll see. I mean, I haven't watched enough of the running backs, and I still have a bunch of wide receivers that I need to look at too. So this is going to be an ongoing.
One more. Oh, sorry. Ron T has one. I haven't literally done nothing. Ron T, I have one more. In Dynasty, would you rather have the 101 and 103, Harrison Jr. and Drake Meyer, or which would you rather go for if you had those two picks? Marvin Harrison Jr. and I guess the QB2, or the QB1 and the wide receiver 2? I think we were talking about this based on someone else's question. Based on the very little I know so far, I want Harrison and whoever this QB2 guy is in a Superflex. Just more certain upside at wide receiver for me. If I'm as certain as currently I'm expecting to be on Harrison, which isn't to say for sure. Nabas look great. Harrison looks like a different kind of great. And there's very few prospects that stand out that way to me. But again, I'm barely brushed against data without the 23 year. So with quarterback evaluation for me is a lot more, I kind of take consensus. And so I'd rather bet on my evaluations when I can. And that's the only difference maker. Process-wise, you take the best quarterback in the Superflex. That probably should be the answer. Do you have a preference?
I haven't seen the quarterbacks yet, so like it's hard for me. Like I prefer Harrison to Neighbors, but I don't know if that gap is enough to between Caleb Williams and May. I don't know yet. So
fair enough. James Tucker, who's the most sure safe rookie running back so far? That's got to be a you. I don't know a thing.
No, I haven't watched running backs yet. I don't think there is one yet.
Yes, Harry couldn't separate in college. No idea what anyone saw other than Bill. Well, I was talking market share at the time, and I can literally show you my notes and also still the market share. That's why I like him. He was a volume hog on a fairly competitive conference with a decent draft capital. I was like, yes, that guy. That's simple. Kevin, the type of manufactured touch situation reminds me of Burks. Manufactured touches.
Different, though, to me, where Burks was a little bit more raw. Like, you'd see it with Burks, and then, like, it was kind of inconsistent. Whereas these other guys, it's not like Burks wasn't a down the field like separate with physicality and verticality. Burks was he'd run a route and it wouldn't be quite as clean as you wanted it to, so he'd separate and then lose separation. And so that to me is different than not ever having the separation or using your physicality to gain separation at the catch point.
Interesting.
I mean, semantics, but to me, they're different.
Well, devil's in the details. It sounds like, not that I know I had a film evaluate. Ron T thought so too, and the person who has the 102 and the 104 also has the 104. So trying to get the best 2 out of those 4 loads of life. Appreciate it, fellas. And again, Ron, it's your team. Honestly, we don't know the future, and both seem like solid options. So do what you want, but we try to offer an opinion, or actually what I would do, and then if you want to, you can come blame me if you make the same decision, but definitely make your own decision. I'm not saying that is definitely the right answer. It is for me, but I've been wrong more times than I care to count, and I count them. James Tucker, any rookies from this past year that did not perform that you're still in on? I mean, we did mention the running backs just because the nature of the position. So you got Bigsby, you got Charbonnet kind of still waiting in the wings. Roshan a little bit, I guess.
Kendre Miller.
But wide receivers are very much a put up or shut up, especially even in their rookie season. And I'm somewhat disappointed with the way Downs finished his rookie season. Tank Dell fully sold on, as well as Addison. JSN's borderline, but looking positive.
I mean, he's been great the last
6
weeks. I know you don't do splits, but
no. With rookies, I get it. Yeah,
but this was exactly what. I mean, we talked about this at the beginning of the year, and this was why I drafted Addison over JSN, because I thought Addison would produce really. JSN would be kind of a slow burn at the end of the year. He'd be pretty good.
Literally the alliteration of what we said as well. I said, yes, but he does have to do it by the end, which he has done. So, you saw the full art. It's a really interesting season. So I don't really do the still in on after bad with wide receivers. I try to avoid making excuses at wide receiver because it's so harsh. It's such a steep cutoff if they don't early. Tight ends, obviously, you have a little bit more leeway, but the tight ends in this class kind of paid off. So maybe Mayer. Maybe people don't recognize that Mayer still has more leash. Again, not to get into the top 2, the top 3, but the top 12, sure, maybe. And then the running backs already mentioned. So, yeah, and Bryce Young, I'm willing to go with that draft capital and that rookie accuracy. At least to expect that I can still trade him at value mid-season if he hasn't shown more next year. Maybe. Yeah. Aaron Jones or Pollard this week? I'm assuming it's Pollard, but I'd love it to be Aaron Jones. No, it's Pollard. I love starting Aaron Jones. It's my favorite thing in fantasy. What would you trade to get JSN? If I am on a good... See, I think this is probably where I'll draw the line. Still in on JSN. Had him as rookie wide receiver 1. God, I hope my hit rates stay consistent, and JSN needs to hit for it to not take a slight step back, despite having a great year with Tank Down and the other hits I haven't. Mid to late first. Plus a second, because he had a pretty good rookie year. Yeah. I don't think we've gotten into that upper tier of picks, like a top 5 pick. I'm probably going to re-roll. But mid to late first, if I have to add a second or have to add a Josh Downs or a Jaden Reed, yeah. Zach, you have a better way of or a better trade that you'd be looking for Jason?
I mean, I'd probably give up the 106 for him.
Yeah,
like that. Okay. I know you're a little lower than that, but that's probably where I'd be. I mean,
I said mid to late, and I said I'd even throw in an ad. That's pretty close.
Yeah, like 105, 106, something like that. But that'd be the top end of where I would. I have him and Malik Neighbors pretty similarly graded.
James, despite it being apparently a lower draft class, I can pick up another Jack Charbonnet in the second round. I'm guessing, having not looked at any of this class yet, if I can't get him for a second round pick. So yeah, that's like a 205, 206 cutoff line. And you're not going to get me excited about getting Charbonnet. I'm fairly interested, but if you start throwing in stuff or complicating the trade, and I'm just like, I'll just draft a running back. It's fine. Then that's the way I would treat it with Charbonnet, with Bigsby, with Roschon. It's like, not that I don't care about the player or I'm being flippant about the player. It's just I'm playing fantasy. I'm hoping they have real NFL success. It's different. Kevin, would someone like Tillman, who was behind, this is what we were just alluding to with JSN. Slow is fine. An excuse is not. JSN got there by the end, and that's what I said I needed to see. I won't make excuses for wide receiver because of target competition. Good players get targets. If you don't get targets, it's because you're not the former. Relative to fantasy, I'm not actually trying to have a take on, who this guy is in the NFL, trying to live a dream, fully rooting for him. But even as a prospect, he was I hope he can be a deep ball guy on some team and have some plays, and a best ball guy kind of was the upside with Tillman. So no, Amari and Elijah do not excuse Tillman or elevate what I thought he was from his rookie profile at bare minimum. Target competition in general will not be a good excuse for me. I don't think targets vacate in the same way I don't think wide receivers are held back by the other players on the team. Now, the ceilings can be this. I will go that far. Like if you have DK and Tyler Lockett on your team, then only getting to 17% target share on the season and only having, 30% of his weeks in the top 24. All right. In the same way that Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry in college were both really good prospects, but not great, but then went on to have multiple top 5 seasons themselves in the NFL. Like it muted their ceiling in college a little bit at LSU, but they still were clearly showing up as good. So, yeah, targets not vacating and target competition not being an excuse for less than good, or whatever your benchmark is, expectation for wide receivers, it all kind of goes together to me. That's why I think vacated targets are actually an important conversation to understand why I say they don't exist, but why it seems to make sense. Because if you accept the one, then the other must be true, that target competition justifies not being good, but you're going to get a lot of misses if you go in on the Tillmans and the Jalen Hyatts. In fact, only misses. And this thing over here, which doesn't matter too much, justifies all those shots. And if you just accept that vacated targets doesn't exist, this immediately disappears and you suddenly wipe all those misses from your ledger. And it's a simple way, especially from a basketball perspective, making a lot
draft the good players. Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah, basically. Chris Hingley. Sorry, it is late. I shouldn't have gone on that. Leading towards Jones. Just based off how bad Pollard, it's rough to start a player who's been struggling. The way I've defaulted, again, just my dynasty life, is try to take in as much information as possible. At the end of the day, start the player you would rather lose with playing them. That's the question I ask myself. But to answer your questions, and my first point on making that decision for my own teams is to check out my crowd-funded projections using 4 or 5 different industry-leading projections to create a consensus, and that's what my projection model is based off, and that says Pollard. Now, as far as my lineup goes, I put him in and then ask myself the question, am I okay losing by starting Pollard or losing by starting whoever, Jones? And that would determine it. But the answer, I think, should be those projections are probably the best bet we have, because they do a lot of work, and I try to steal all of it to make the best decision more often than not. And let's see. How have the projections been doing this year? I've had a projection leading year. Like in 2023, for running backs in the top 5, I got 28% of my top 5 running backs actually finish in the top 5 on a weekly basis. This year it's been 26, so I've been missing a little bit of the top 5 category, but in the top 12 it's moved up 8%. From 40% were accurately ranked in the top 12 to 48% were accurately ranked in the top 12. So even the best, an average of the best projections aren't getting you to that 50% mark, which is why that question still exists, right? But it is basically turning it into a 50-50 bet, and rather just based on the work that those projectors do, and I do to steal. But yeah, that's the question. Which would you rather lose having started? And play your gut, but I would answer Pollard. Oh, wait, there's something about Brees there. Have to start Brees tomorrow. No, yeah, I think you start Brees home. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a level where it would matter? Target share is impacted in the Pro Bowl because it's an elite players. You're talking specifically about Pro Bowl. I don't separate out the Pro Bowl or really weight it into anything. I think the Pro Bowl looks like a really interesting film exercise, talking about seeing players play what is supposedly better competition. That makes sense.
But they don't actually. But it's an exhibition game. They don't actually play.
Oh,
but Kevin, if you go back and look at, so I happened to pull up the 2022 Pro Bowl. Do you know who led the NFC in targets in the Pro Bowl? Justin Jefferson, who happens to be the best wide receiver in the NFC. Second in targets, CeeDee Lamb. So it's like you're still targeting your better players. That's just kind of what happens, even though it's an exhibition and it's not like they're trying to spread the ball around. They're getting people to, but Justin Jefferson still gets open. If you get open, you get the ball thrown to you. That's just what happens. And I think separation happens at different places. Like, that's one of the biggest beefs I have with like PFF and like all of the different places that track separation, because there's not a good definition of separation. And I think that separation happens in multiple places and not all of them are on the wide receiver. So there's like initial separation where receivers can either entice a throw or not. And I think that's a big part of what Peter's talking about, where like good players drive targets. Because if you can get open enough that the quarterback sees you and sees that you're open, then you're going to get a target. But you can also be open and then have a quarterback that throws you a ball that now all of a sudden you have to kind of slow up to get. Now that separation is gone. And so when the ball gets there, the 5 yards of separation that you may have created is now like a foot of separation. So that's not necessarily on the receiver, and it's tracked by different. But anyway, I like, to me, where Peter is saying talent drives the targets, like, I completely agree with him. But it's also like that's driving a target, but it's not necessarily separate. Well, Chase does both. He's amazing.
To be fair, I think that's the best short way of expressing something that's a little more complex. Like, talent drives targets, sure, but there's context. It matters, exactly. And that's a lot of what you're saying in there. I'm trying to simplify it into something that, yeah. But it's a banner of it's not complex, but slightly more context-driven takeaways. Yeah.
To me, Kevin, Evans is a late separator. Mike Williams is a late separator. The guys who you see as big contested catching, Des Bryant was a late separator. And that was the thing when Dak Prescott was the quarterback when he first came in. And everyone was like, Dak is this fantastic quarterback. He's super accurate. Des Bryant all of a sudden like wasn't getting any targets when he was a monster before. And part of that was Dak doesn't throw to a covered receiver. And so somebody like Mike Evans or somebody like Des Bryant was somebody like even Chase and T. Higgins at points, they are open even when they're covered because they can separate vertically. But it takes a quarterback that can see that as open. And it's harder to see than 6 feet of separation. Right. Because that's you're open. So
the only thing I'd add here a little bit, just real quick, because it's getting late and I'm starting not to make sense. I think one of my bugaboos, and I'm not a statistician, I did history in college, to be fully clear, so I might be describing this oddly, but I do seem to know how it works. I think I do after pummeling the data as hard as I can for a few years. I think this is one of the main ways numbers lie to us in terms of what is statistical analysis and what is just a number, like 4 or 5, or it's as good as the eye color of your mother's maiden grandmother. You know, it tells you as much. Some numbers are like that. And the way it becomes statistics or statistical analysis is a sample size. And any target share from a single game is nowhere near enough data to consider it a statistic worthy of analysis. And in a Pro Bowl isolated game like that, it's good for creating a narrative because you can take into account all that context. But then you understand it as a narrative. He got the target share against tough competition, and here's all this other analysis to go with it. You can start building a narrative of why that works. But if you think of it as a number or a statistic, a target share in a single game out of like its own sample as a statistic, it's start misleading you. You got 40% of the targets. 40% is a good target share number, but that isn't a target share number. It's just because it's this small sample event that doesn't really relate to anything else. So you can't use it as a good target share isn't what would usually be a good target share in this weird single sample event, if that's making sense. I think it's one of the main ways numbers both get a bad rap when it isn't deserved and a good rap when it's not deserved, because without significant sample size, numbers do not have any value. They're just outside of adding context, adding a narrative, and putting a lot of pieces together to try and pass out a lot of individual decisions that we're not in the room for, which is like, you know, what do the coaches try to do in the Pro Bowl? Are they trying to feature their best players? Are they trying to just keep everyone safe? Are they trying to highlight someone they personally think needs more attention? And if you can piece all that together, you can create a good narrative that gives you more information. But the number, the target share, what isn't a good target share, we have no context for what isn't a good target share because it's a small sample event. If that makes some sense, like that's the only thing I can add from don't get that kind of target share confused with target share from their season or their games. It's kind of incomparable.
This also goes back to and Kevin, you probably haven't been around with us long enough to hear us rail about this, but 4 teams a year support 2 top 24 wide receivers, and that's because they have 2 good wide receivers on a team, which means they both driving targets. So it's the Waddle, Hill, it's the Chase and Higgins. It's the fact that it's not just that one player is going to emerge as the talent, but if you have multiple talented players, you're going to throw the ball more because you're going to be successful throwing the ball to those players, and you're going to throw to them because you are successful throwing to them.
It's the kind of thing you have to build your own sample size on. For example, for a while, I forgot to do it for 2022, apparently, but I've just been keeping notes as like a side project of who stands out in the Senior Bowl. Because a lot of people are really into the Senior Bowl, just to see how relevant that is. And I went back a little bit into before I was paying attention, but also the years that have gone by. And like in 2021, Mac Jones, Josh Palmer, and Michael Carter stood out in the Senior Bowl. The draft picks were the 1st round, 3rd round, 4th round. So Mac Jones feels like a hit, but the other two, I mean, I actually kind of like Parker's profile a little bit, but Palmer's profile, but he definitely hasn't paid off. The year before that, though, 2020, Herbert, who was actually a lower touted prospect coming in, it was a surprise that he's so different than he is. And Antonio Gibson hit. He was drafted in the 3rd round as a running back. That's definitely paid off, so it feels like good. But then you go back to 2019, and you've got Hunter Renfrow, kind of paid off, but also Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel were both noted as standouts, but also Paris Campbell. And then you go back a year before that, and I've just got Kupp noted a year before that, Dak Prescott a year before that, David Johnson, and then back to 2008, because my notes get kind of sketchy before I remember, and it's just Matt Forte. I seem to see a lot of hindsight familiarity with what actually happened the further back I go. In the years I actively was noting these down, it's Josh Palmer and Michael Carter and Hunter Renfrow. And then we get back to, remember when Cooper Kupp proved it? I don't remember who was standing out in Twitter on draft season in 2017, but I'm sure there was someone else. I think, and again, I haven't made enough notes for enough years to know, but it just feels to me, after only doing it for a few years and trying to backtrack through Twitter mentions and stuff, like we forget pain, we remember pleasure. And I think Pro Bowl and Senior Bowl standouts are somewhat suspect still. But again, I'm trying to build out myself. I can't say that for sure yet, but I'm trying to build it out. But that's the type of thing you can make your own narrative sample size on, if you know what I mean. I don't know, just an idea. If you remember more than I do, because I've barely been paying attention to the NFL for 4 or 5 years, and you might be better at it. That's why I mentioned. You guys rock. Thank you. Love Dynasty, and you guys are amazing take. Thanks, James. Appreciate it. We're trying our best.
The rest of this is all stuff we've answered. So I think,
Peter,
okay. I think we're here. I think we are. I think we can look over there.
We got to go to bed, guys. Thanks, everyone.